Call this meeting to order, and I would ask the clerk to conduct a roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Gale.
I'm here.
Councillor Badaway.
Present.
Councillor Bateman. Councillor Campion. Councillor Crater.
He's present.
Councillor Diodati.
I'm here.
Councillor Easton. Councillor Foster.
Present.
Councillor Gannan. Councillor Greenwood. Councillor Encina.
Present.
Councillor Yip. Councillor Jordan. Councillor Junkin.
Here.
Councillor Kaiser. Councillor Olson. Councillor Rigby.
Here.
Councillor Seaborn.
Present.
Councillor Secord.
I'm here.
Councillor Cisco.
Present.
Councillor Sorrento.
Present.
Councillor Steele.
Here.
Councillor Ugolini.
Present.
Councillor Villela.
Present.
Councillor Whalen.
Present.
Councillor Witteveen.
Present.
Councillor Zalepa.
I'm here. Thank you, clerk.
And we have regrets from Councillors Kiokio, Grant, Height, and Morocco, Chair.
Niagara is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Attawandaronk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Regional Municipality of Niagara stands with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. And at this time, I would ask everyone to rise for a minute's silence to recognize those who lost their lives in Tumbler Ridge, please. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? There being none, then we have 3 delegations on this evening's agenda. I'll remind the delegates that you each have 10 minutes to speak, and all discussion is to be directed through the chair. And I know that you will be respectful in your responses to questions by members of council. So I'll call upon, with respect to the general tax levy budget update, I'll call upon Nora Kalb, Chief Executive Officer of Innovate Niagara. Good evening.
Good evening. Can I put this? Okay, there we go. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. I'm Nora Kalb, the Chief Executive Officer of Innovate Niagara, and with me is Greg Hanna, a member of our Board of Directors and the CEO and founder of Destiny Copper. I also want to thank the other members of the board and supporters who have joined me here in person and online today. We are here to address the budget recommendation number 2, which reads that the Innovate Niagara program be removed from the 2026 budget and the regional department's budget be reduced by $93,996 or 0.02% of the general tax levy. Our ask of you today is to instead continue to invest in the vital work carried out by Innovate Niagara, which benefits the entire Niagara region. So what is Innovate Niagara? We are one of 17 regional innovation centers, or RICs, across the province that are designated by the province to be part of the RIC network. Our mandate is to empower innovative entrepreneurs, to help them take their ideas, commercialize them, and grow their companies in Niagara, and we do not charge them for our services. Being part of this network gives Niagarans access to provincial resources through the RIC network, plus national resources through our membership in Canada's tech network. If the region won't invest in local companies creating tech jobs and contributing to the local economy and tax base, it sends a message: why should the province invest? So we were founded in 2008, focusing first on interactive digital media companies, trying to keep students and businesses in the region to not leave after graduating. In 2011, we became the Niagara Regional Innovation Centre, getting funding from the province to provide services across sectors to innovative entrepreneurs. But it was always funding at levels that needed regional investment as well. The services that we offer include mentorship. We work one-on-one with clients to help them at their stage on areas they need support. We do this through market intelligence, providing industry-leading data from sources such as Gartner, Frost & Sullivan, and Bloomberg, which gives our clients a competitive edge in the marketplace and competitive edge in securing financing. We're the only center in Niagara that provides this service. Last year alone, we provided our clients with $605,000 in reports at no cost to them. We help direct and connect our clients to sources for possible funding, whether it's through our partners such as Ontario Centre for Innovation, Intellectual Property Ontario, the Angel Network, and other angel groups. This brings money from outside Niagara into our region. We have a small team, but we put on events at least twice a month that educate and bring tech entrepreneurs together. It can be lonely out there, but we bring like-minded people together to give them a community of peers and to educate on topics they want, such as our AI peer-to-peer groups and pitch competitions, building a dream team, understanding SR&ED, tax credits, and funding sources, to name a few. As in the last few points, connections are vital to our clients, and we help connect to other resources in the region, the province, and nationally through our networks such as the Canada Tech Network, which allows our clients to access resources from coast to coast. Startup Visa is the only program that we do charge a fee. This is a program that we have been a designated organization for since 2015. We're one of only 10 centers in the country that have priority processing, which means our supported companies set up in Niagara faster. This is an important resource in contributing to Niagara region's FDI strategy. We've helped international tech companies such as Destiny Copper make Niagara their permanent home. We have 13 additional companies who are in the process of permanent residence applications right now to join us here. With an average of 4 founders each, this doesn't just mean 13 companies with highly educated and skilled founders. It also means more than 50 families moving to Niagara. At this time, the program is on pause, so no additional companies can apply, but we're hopeful that for the program that will replace it. Since becoming a regional innovation center almost 15 years ago, we've worked with 1,600 clients, providing them with nearly 20,000 hours of advice from our client advisor team and our C-level mentors. We have provided them over $10 million in market intelligence reports and had nearly 25,000 people come out to the 446 events that we and our partners have hosted. Our clients have received more than $163 million in investments into their business, and much of this from outside Niagara. Our clients created more than 1,200 jobs, and this is a very conservative number. And if it doesn't sound like a lot, think of it as 2.5 times all the current jobs at General Motors. And these are well-paid, high-skilled tech jobs for people who may otherwise have had to leave the region. In addition, our client companies have generated over $200 million in revenues and set up shop in our communities, generating property tax revenues. I want to quickly point out one program we've run for the last 4 years. Idea Fund provides seed funding to companies to do environmental impact projects. We're able to run this because of our partnerships with other regional innovation centers in Southern Ontario. Over the program's 4 years, Innovate Niagara has invested $1.68 million in seed funding to 64 companies. Now, this slide is actually a screenshot from the Niagara Region Economic Development website, highlighting key emerging sectors in the region. Every employer you see on the bottom that's notable, that's highlighted here, has access services from Innovate Niagara to advance their business, which again shows our alignment with the regional priorities as outlined in the Niagara Region Economic Development 10-year strategy. Now, if we just look at last year, in 2025, the region invested $92,000 in Innovate Niagara, and that leveraged $420,000 from the province and around $200,000 from the federal government. For the region's $92,000 investment, the region gets a full-service entrepreneur program with critical results. Losing this funding will put at risk our core funding from Ontario and jeopardizes the services we provide to the region. This investment, which is less than the cost of an ECDEV staff, enabled us to work with 128 companies who created 148 jobs and received $24 million of investment, 80% of it from private sources. If you look at just that investment number, it equals an ROI of $261 for every dollar Niagara Region invested. And we attracted 10 international tech companies to come to Niagara. So this is what you get for only $92,000. Just think what we could do with $200,000 or $300,000. So I'm now going to turn it over to Greg, who can give you a real-life example of our impact.
Thank you, Nora. Hi, everyone. My name is Greg Hanna. 10 years ago, my wife and I moved our 4 children from South Africa to Niagara with the goal of building a safer, more fulfilling life for our family. Since I was a teen, entrepreneurship has been a deep passion of mine, so it was a natural goal to launch a new business in Canada. After pitching our startup idea to the High Commission of Canada in Pretoria, South Africa, we were duly granted a 3-year work permit. We began selling our real estate holdings, and later that year, our family of 6 boarded a flight with our 18 suitcases for Canada. I was fully focused on the clean tech startup. This was in the early part of it. Our 3-year work permit was, however, quickly moving and drawing closer to termination. We approached the city of St. Catharines, who referred us to Brock. They, in turn, introduced us to Innovate Niagara. I'm not overstating it when I say this introduction was literally life-changing. Innovate Niagara offers a startup visa program, which we qualified for. We were then granted permanent residency and ultimately Canadian citizenship. Due to my age at that point, it would have been very difficult to have applied any other way. Critical early-stage funding was also awarded to Destiny Copper from the federal government via the Idea Fund, as discussed, which was carefully managed and distributed by Innovate Niagara. In addition, we received one-on-one mentorship and guidance from a seasoned entrepreneur provided by Innovate Niagara. Fast forward to today, Destiny Copper is now occupying 40,000 square foot industrial facility in the old paper mill in Thorold. Extracting copper, a critical mineral, from waste solutions using almost zero energy. This breakthrough clean tech is now globally patented, has already created 15 jobs directly and many more indirectly. We've raised close to 12 million in investment from both private and public investors, including the Canadian Space Agency. We have hired young scientists from Brock University, Niagara College, who have, instead of leaving the area to go and look for work, have now settled down in Niagara, bought houses, paying property taxes, and raising their families. Earlier this week, my team and I were in Montreal negotiating a contract that could potentially bring tens of millions into the region. Destiny Copper has further long-term growth ambitions. I therefore humbly ask you today to reconsider this funding so that that is so vital to Innovate Niagara. This organization is fundamental in the Niagara region, and I, for one, would not be standing here today if it wasn't for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hanna and Ms. Kolb. Do any members of council have any questions? Councillor Seaborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to our presenters. Thank you for coming today. I'm quite familiar actually with Innovate Niagara, and I know that you're that step between a good idea and actually making it happen. Do you find some of the graduates from both universities and colleges in the area actually come to you with their ideas so it can be brought to fruition through yourselves?
Absolutely. We do mentor some students right at Brock through their BrockLink program, and we have at least, I'd say, 10 companies come through there every year in terms of they've kind of developed their idea and then come see us. We get a lot of students coming through.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Seaborn. Councillor Cisco.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the presenters. Thank you for the presentation. Ms. Kolb, I wanted to key in on one number that you had in your presentation there. You said last year the clients of Innovate were able to create 148 jobs. Rough math says that for $92,000 investment, that $620 per job that was created. If we just look at the job creation from your clients.
Okay.
Would you consider a $620 investment for a new job being created a good investment?
Yeah, I don't know what the standard is, but I think that's pretty good investment.
Given that upper levels of government will sometimes invest billions, and when they actually run the numbers, the investment works out to like 1.5 million per new job. Would this be considered a deal compared to that?
I think this could be considered a deal, and it's not just the job numbers, it's the people getting good jobs and getting tech jobs and staying here. And it creates there's the whole social impact too that it has on Niagara of having a strong economy and good paying tech jobs.
Agreed. At this portion, I'm not allowed to provide an opinion. I can only ask questions. So I thought
You
it made
can-
sense to ask you about the dichotomy between, federal programs that cost $1.5 million per job and $620 a job. And I think you answered it adequately.
Yeah.
So
And there is a report that you can address comments to.
100%, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cisco. Councillor Villela.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for your presentation. You answered, I had about 9 questions. You answered
Okay.
about 5 of them. And if I may just recap to make sure that I've got the numbers correct. How many companies are currently being supported? You said 1,616?
Since our inception, so
Yes.
if we look at active clients, so we look at people that we've worked with in the last 6 months, we have
Yeah.
97 active right now.
97, okay. And again, the 1,228 jobs created, that's over your span of time? Okay. And last year it was how many?
148.
148. And one of my question was the external investment or grant funding. So with this sort of seed money, I guess, does that help you to attain that 420,000 from the province and 200 from the federal?
I'd say that it helped, us being part of the provincial network allows us to access different programs. So the IDEA Fund There's 6 different regional innovation centers that are together on this program, delivering it in southern Ontario, and we were able to access FedDev funding to get that money to inject into companies.
Excellent. And then one of my questions was, what kind of, I guess, you were the presenter, so thank you, because that's hugely important to hear firsthand the effects that this kind of funding has for startup businesses. And the sectors that are primarily being supported, I took from what I researched, advanced manufacturing, agri-tech, clean tech. Is that a fair?
Yeah, I'd say 50% is what you'd call your ICT or information, like technology, that are kind of cross industries. And then it's spread out in advanced tech, advanced manufacturing, agri-tech, clean tech.
So future jobs.
Yes.
Jobs of the future.
Health.
So I'll get to my final point, which is, I'll give you all 4 questions and maybe you can go from there.
Okay.
So what services would be reduced or eliminated if this funding is cut? That's my first question. The second one, you just answered actually with regards to the leveraging of the provincial and federal or private investment. The next one would be, do other comparable regions fund their innovative centers? And my last one, which is probably the most important, is how would this cut affect Niagara's competitiveness?
Right. So if we didn't get the funding, first of all, it gives a message to the province, and I'm not sure how that will impact, because our contract with the province comes up next year. What the real impact it would be for us is we have 5 staff, and you cut $92,000. There aren't that many other places you can look to cut costs. But with 5 staff, it's very hard for us to keep delivering events and services. I don't even know where we cut someone out in order to deliver that. So it puts us in a very difficult position. And I did talk to other regional innovation centers, and there is a mix, to be honest, of how much support they get. Some of them get like $200,000 from their region or city. Some of them do get zero. There's a real mix.
And the last question would be how you feel this cut would affect our competitiveness.
You know, when I sit with other regional innovation center leaders and the ones across Canada, and I hear about all the wonderful programs and everything they're doing, and it's really hard for us to keep up with all of that with such a small team as it is. And so even having to cut more things would have a definite impact.
Thank you for your time and thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Villela. Councillor Easton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your presentation and the gentleman that's with you. The support that you receive from the region, are there any models where the similar support is provided by local area municipalities or possibly through the chamber?
We do get some funding from St. Catharines and Welland here. Does that answer your question? And Hamilton would get some from, well, they're just one city. Other places get it from their region and their local municipality. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question properly.
Okay. And so have you found yourself in a position where you actively pursued funding from other sources besides the region?
Constantly. We're constantly looking for other avenues. We get some funding from like corporate, but it is hard and it's smaller dollars. We can't charge our clients, like especially for the business advisory services, because that's part of the Ontario RIC model that we're not to charge them. So it is our constant thing of looking for diversifying our revenues.
And through you, Mr. Chair, was the model, was the intent of the model, did people contemplate that the model could only survive with provincial and regional money? I think you said that there were some regions that don't
Yeah.
don't support.
The province set it up to be like 75%, that the funding would be from the province, and then kind of find the rest other places. So it is a mix of finding the local support. And I think it speaks a lot to the province when they do see the local support is there.
Right, yes, I suppose I can understand that. And to the gentleman that's with you, obviously, if the mandate has been laid out by the province and they're specific that this is a free service, how would you feel if you could have contributed? What is it valuable enough that you would have contributed if that had been the case?
Absolutely, and the startup visa, we did contribute to that, as they do across the board, and it was a very vital service. It would have made a very tough and difficult path to get our citizenship without that startup visa.
So Nora, if that's the case, then is there a certain point in your relationship with the client where the mandate itself, in its purest sense, has been accomplished, and you're moving on to other elements, more advanced elements? Is it reasonable that there could be a charge at that point?
We have been looking at models so that there could be some fee-for-service activities as well. So we have been assessing that, yes.
Right, okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Easton. Councillor Whalen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. A couple quick questions. First off, how's the 92,000 derived? Is it a certain percentage of your budget, or where do you get that figure from?
The 92,000?
Yes.
We've been receiving that from the region since 2017. Since 2014, the region has provided us some funding. And there was funding, there was 92,000 plus 75 for incubation for the first 3 or 4 years. That 75 went to Innovate Niagara, Niagara College, and Brock University for incubation. And then that part was no longer part of it, and we went down to 92. So I'm not sure where the 92 came from, but that's been the amount for the last 8 years. And I don't know why it's 93, 996 on this.
So that being
On
the
the
case, if there was
recommendation.
increase or decrease, would it have a major effect on the provincial and federal government's support also?
It did not change, like what we've got from the region, or of the province. We've gotten the same since 2011 from the province. So it's been hard, you know, salaries go up, you have to, you know, there's the cost of living, and it's a constant struggle for us.
Thank you. Just one more question. Is it seed money or is it mentorship that you provide for these corporations, or what, does it develop both, or how is that assessed?
We provide mentorship, and then, for instance, the IDEA Fund was funded, seed funding from FedDev, and so it was a non-repayable, either 30,000 or 20,000, and then it had to be matched by the company. So they did have to put money into it as well to get the money. They had to match.
So that being the case, if you didn't have these funding, is there some companies now that would fold because this funding wouldn't exist with ongoing mentorship? So it's
Yeah.
not only the new companies coming in, it's the
Yeah.
existing ones that could have problems also.
Yes, I would say so, because things like the FedDev funding is pretty vital to, I mean, it helped Greg get to the next level of,
Absolutely, I can speak to that. The original IDEA funding was fairly limited. It was $20,000. We had to match it $20,000. But at that time, it created the catalyst for future funding, both private and government, up to into the hundreds of thousands and millions from there.
That's great. Thank you for those answers.
Councillor Secord.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you've stated that you have 5 staff, but how many volunteers do you currently have?
we don't have volunteers. We have a roster of mentors that are kind of
Mentors?
level.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we do pay them like a stipend type, like a low rate for their skills. So we do not have anyone on volunteer, except for our volunteer. Our board is volunteer, though, I must say. We have,
Okay, so I would say mentors or volunteers. So how many people would you have like that you can draw on right now?
We have about 10 that are kind of our core mentors.
Yeah, so, and I'm assuming these are, as I would call them, captains of business in their fields?
That's correct, yeah.
So, and I know you're probably not gonna be able to do this, but I want you to try and guess. There has to be a value to that. We're talking about 90,000 from the region, but the value that those people would bring to the table, has to far exceed that. Would that be true?
Yeah, like we do pay them a rate, but it's probably half at the least of what their probably normal rate is.
Right.
So it would probably be around the same as what the region amount is. Yes.
Right. So if we were to cut our funding, you're going to have to cut staff. That means you have less staff to help those people or aid them in what they're doing. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I needed to know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Secord. Councillor Bateman.
Thank you, Chair. My apologies for coming in a little bit late. I'm so glad I made it for your presentation. When I saw that you were on the list, I don't know a lot about Innovate Niagara. So I went through your website and I reached out to a CAO just to talk about the importance of the work you do and the funding. It was a CAO of Cattle. His name is Ransom Howley, and I'm wondering if you can talk. I think he has 15 employees, but he said, if you multiply, his business by the number of businesses that Innovate Niagara has helped, it's quite a significant number. And I apologize if you already spoke about this, but could you give us a brief snippet about what that would look like?
Yeah. So we can only collect data like. I say our data is under because clients don't always update us with all the good news of, we've hired this person and this person. But we know that there's at least 1,220 odd jobs that people have created were clients of ours. And like Cattle came in, they had an idea, and Ransom had industry knowledge and wanted to start his own business, didn't know where to go from there. And so from that first thought, he came through us. And like you said, he's got 15 employees, very successful business.
And they're all local employees, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And now that CAO or CEO through you, Chair, is part of the team and passing on his knowledge to other people so they can have the same success.
Yeah, so he is on our board, and so that we can learn. And that's another thing, like we talk about, is that people who have come through and benefited, that, how can they give back and help other entrepreneurs coming through?
Thank you. That's lovely to see. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bateman. Councillor Encina.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation. Have you, through your funding or seeking funding, have you gone to a local industry and presented to them what you're doing and how successful has that been?
Every year we do get corporate sponsorships. It's more like a few $1,000s here and there. So we do get, like, I think last year we had $20,000 in corporate sponsors. So we are actively, pursuing that, but it is a harder, it seems to be a hard sell.
And through you, Chair, you mentioned about people giving back their expertise. And I liken it to alumni at a university. Do you reach out to your alumni and say, hey, do you want to help out with the programs, not just mentorship, but financially?
Yeah, we have not done a lot of that, but that is, there is that give back that we should definitely try pursuing more.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Encina. Since there are no other councillors who wish to ask questions, thank you very much, Ms. Kolb and Mr. Hanna.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
coming
much.
out.
Thank you.
That takes us to the next delegation, which is Jordan Sherlock on behalf of the Niagara Industrial Association. Good evening, Mr. Sherlock.
Good evening. Is it evening, afternoon? Yeah, I think we're close to evening. Good evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. My name is Jordan Sherlock, Executive Director of the Niagara Industrial Association. Thanks again for having me here tonight. The Niagara Industrial Association is the leading voice of the industrial community here in Niagara. Our sector represents nearly 25,000 jobs across 650-plus diverse businesses. Our mandate as an industry association is primarily to represent and support existing industrial businesses here in Niagara. We were made aware of tonight's discussion around budget mitigation items and appreciate the opportunity to speak to item number 1 on the agenda around the industrial development charge incentive grant reduction of 50%. Based on our understanding and using the calculator on the region website, a hypothetical example would be that a construction of a 50,000 square foot building, which meets the Niagara region's definition of industrial use, would currently receive a grant of $399,000. Under the proposed changes, that same development would now be responsible for paying $199,500 in development charges out of pocket. As many of you are aware, this is a difficult time for manufacturers. Multiple factors, not least of which includes trade strain with the U.S., have again stacked the deck against small, medium-sized businesses especially. And in a climate where manufacturing in Canada is needed more than ever, the sector continues to shrink in part due to the complexities of operating within the current climate. In 2026, we are biting our nails as we deal with a CUSMA review in the summer, realization of 2025 tariff impact on contracts, ambiguous opportunities in emerging sectors, and the cost of everything increasing. Now more than ever, our local decision makers need to commit to the industrial sector and desperately find ways to keep it viable. In its 10-year economic development strategy, the region highlights one of the ways in which it has established a major competitive advantage to assist business expansion and industry. I'll quote from that document: "The provision of both development charge and tax increment-based grants or deferrals provides Niagara with a unique value proposition that provides a competitive business climate." The analysis detail within tonight's agenda's pertinent line item states that Niagara is the only jurisdiction in Ontario that offers industrial DC grants. While this may be true technically speaking, there are many jurisdictions in Ontario who have exemption policies that result in complete DC exemption with no need for a business to file a grant in the first place. The consideration is taken off the table. Other jurisdictions contain DC relief within their bylaws, in fact, making the process for businesses clear and simple in terms of its application. We interpret the budget mitigation line item detail as addressing 2 items: reducing the per applicant benefit of the grant program by 50%, as well as reducing the grant budget total by $1 million. We are unclear as to what the original number was. The changes to that program versus the budget reduction are 2 separate conversations. We believe any change to the program itself requires further consultation and discussion. I'd like to speak to the impact of development charges on industrial businesses directly for a minute. Specifically, the phrase "growth pays for growth," which we hear often and we believe is a paintbrush term used to oversimplify a very complex concept. The details are important, and we feel that the phrase ignores several realities about how industrial businesses operate and how they contribute to broader economic impact. I've got 8 points that I'll quickly highlight with the term "growth paying for growth" in mind. So number 1, growth pays for growth oversimplifies how infrastructure is used. Not all infrastructure required by a municipality is driven by new or existing industrial growth. As a result, industry may end up subsidizing broader community needs framed as growth-related infrastructure. Number 2, DCs penalize job creation by treating businesses like cost drivers, not revenue drivers. Development charges treat industrial activity as a cost burden when in reality it is a net municipal revenue generator. Number 3, high DCs undermine regional competitiveness. Businesses evaluate multiple jurisdictions when choosing an expansion locations literally today in a global marketplace. Favorable and fulsome DC incentives have been identified as a competitive advantage for Niagara historically, as mentioned earlier. Number 4, DCs burden businesses today for benefits realized later. There's often a timing mismatch with DCs. Businesses pay large upfront DCs, even though some infrastructure may not be actually built for years. Some may never be built if planning changes, and the benefit is often completely unrelated to individual business operations. Number 5, industrial users have lower infrastructure demand, generally speaking. Industrial users often require lower traffic generation, fewer community services, and less recreation, transit, or public facility use. Number 6, economic development outcomes are harder to achieve with higher barriers. Municipalities with high DCs will often find it harder to attract new investment, accelerate brownfield redevelopment, revitalize employment zones, and encourage cluster development. Number 7, growth pays for growth assumes perfect forecasting. Municipal DC models rely on imperfect assumptions about things like population growth, job growth, infrastructure life cycles, capital planning costs, and inflation and interest rates. Lastly, over-reliance on DCs reduces pressure for internal efficiency. When municipalities start to rely heavily on development charges, there is less incentive to maximize existing infrastructure, capital plans may become larger than necessary, and cost containment measures lose priority. In closing, as of 2025, Niagara manufacturers will from now on be asking the question, where can we operate most profitably with the most opportunity for growth and the least amount of investment risk? We are officially in a new world when it comes to how the global commercial and business landscape is laid out. In a current climate where uncertainty continues to handcuff business owners in their ability to do what they do best and make good decisions, we don't need another barrier that contributes to that uncertainty. I won't go as far as saying that development charges are the same as tariffs, but they operate in a similar way. Both raise the upfront costs of economic activity and influence behaviors. The risk if charges become too high is that we unintentionally discourage the very growth we're trying to attract. The grant program in its current form addresses this effectively. When we think about mitigating risks of doing business in Niagara for manufacturers, our job is to forge a path of certainty so that these businesses can make long-term, informed decisions on their track to success. Tonight, we're looking for clarity around the proposed changes to the grant program within the agenda document, and our request would be to maintain the industrial development charge incentive grant at 100% and engage with the regional DC policy task force in further discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sherlock. Do any members of council have any questions of Mr. Sherlock? Councillor Bateman.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation, and I'm sorry that you're here to defend your work because your work is very important, but we are in the budget process, right?
Yes.
So I'm just wondering, okay, so the development charges are very important to the work that we do in building community. And I'm wondering, my question to council through you, Chair, has always been, do we get budgets and information from industry prior to them coming and investing in here and prior to us reducing development fees or changing development fees or waiving development fees?
Right.
Do you ever have to supply that information to the municipalities?
Through you, Chair. So just to clarify, your question is what kind of information could we potentially gather to make informed decisions about what the DC impact might be through the grant program?
I don't think that's your question. You want to know whether they provide information to the region prior to a grant
Oh.
being considered?
Right.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
I didn't.
So in other words, are we, through you, Chair, consulted?
Do you, sorry, I'll try and be as clear as
Sorry, I
possible.
apologize.
Do you have to supply any accounting information when you are dealing with DCs and municipalities?
Through you, Chair, no, the NIA proper has not been engaged in any conversations like that.
I think she's wanting to know whether an applicant for a DC incentive grant has to apply for it, and if so, is there material that's filed in support of that application? That's what you're asking.
Financial information. Yes, thank you, Chair, for clarifying.
Through you, Chair, any filings financially related would go through the region. We wouldn't have any involvement or discussions on that. If we're speaking to trying to gather input on decision-making, so, hey, I want to put a shovel in ground to do an expansion or build a greenfield building, what is my DC going to look like? Again, I would say that most of our members, most manufacturers don't even know what a development charge is until they've already gone far enough along in the process with their municipality to uncover that information.
Thank you.
So that's a long way of saying we don't do any data collection or exchanging of information.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, the reason I asked the question, I'm never privy to those conversations, so that was important to me to ask. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, for your benefit, there is an application process. It does require information, and there's a fair bit of information that's filed.
And again, through you, Chair, we wouldn't be privy to that information. It would simply go through.
But you're
through
the
that
association.
process.
You're not an applicant for
Correct.
a grant.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anecdotally, we may have some discussions and try to gather that information. If a member said, hey, I'm in municipality X can you help me navigate what that might look like? And we'll try to point them to the correct resources, but that would be the extent of that.
Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, and thanks for attending this evening. So let's narrow down on this. So the big concern from the Industrial Association, you're worried that if there's a DC or if there's one of these programs come in place, you're only eligible for half of what we may have said last year. Is that the concern that's coming in?
Through you, Chair, correct. So yes, our understanding today, status quo would be there is a 100% grant application for a particular specific application. The way we interpret this, and perhaps we need some more definition around the wording within the language in the line item tonight, our understanding is that would now be per applicant reduced by 50% to 50%. So, I think I used an example, but, if I was able to get a full exemption, I ran a couple of examples through the calculator. A 50,000 square foot expansion would cost about $400,000 in DCs. Right now, that's granted 100%. If it was 50%, I'm out of pocket $200,000. So our ask would be to keep the current program status quo.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. So just doing some digging, apparently we had 7 applications or things last year that were for expansion of factories and that, which is already covered by legislation, and so there was 6 net new. So so this is of concern. So we'll have to make sure we get this all clarified as we go through our discussion tonight. So
Okay, and
thank you.
Councillor Foster, you know that you're allowed to ask a question.
Don't you think we should come up with some answers to that this evening, Mr. Sherlock?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Chair.
And your answer is yes.
Correct, yes. The answer is yes.
I live by the Councillor Fiscal methodology of asking questions, so thank you.
Yeah, well, he's a bit more astute. Thank you very much, Mr. Sherlock. I see there are no other councillors seeking information, so thank you very much for coming out this
Thank you
evening.
very much. Thank you.
That takes us into the final delegation, and that is Rory Nissen, Ontario Caucus Chair of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And if I didn't pronounce your last name properly, please correct me. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair, and I don't care what you call me as long as you call me. It's fine. So,
How do you pronounce your last name?
Nissan, like the car.
Okay.
However you pronounce the car is fine.
Please proceed.
I'd like to reclaim my time. No, just kidding. Chair Redekop and members of Regional Council, thank you for the opportunity to be here with you. And through the Chair, I'm here today in my role as Ontario Caucus Chair of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, elected by my fellow board members, but I'm also a regional councillor in Halton Region. I've been in that position for 7 years. So I do understand the pressures you're facing at this table. And I also know how to make leading questions when necessary. So well done. These are challenging times. There's no question about that. And we feel it on our budgets as well. Affordability is under strain. Councils are being asked to deliver services while keeping tax increases as low as you can. It's a very real reality. You also know that municipalities have a revenue side and an expense side, like any organization. And the question to ask is whether FCM membership is a cost or whether it's an investment. So I'm here to tell you that it is an investment, FCM, for Niagara Region, and that we drive revenue far outstripping the expense. And let me just get into why that's the case. FCM gives Niagara Region a voice in shaping the federal agenda. Through board engagement, member involvement, local priorities are brought directly into federal policy design, and we do that before the programs are finalized. Every year, FCM board members engage with more than 100 parliamentarians to bring your voice to the table, and that's across parties advocating for municipal priorities. We have that kind of access. We have strength in numbers. There are over 2,000 municipal members of FCM, and it's a united voice. We coordinate our campaigns, we provide advocacy kits, we share messaging in a way that one municipality just couldn't do on their own. Third, we have direct access to federal decision makers, and I know you do as well, but we've done really well to build those networks, whether it's the Prime Minister's office, key ministers, senior staff. These relationships allow municipalities to influence programs as they're being shaped, ensuring funding flows and projects move forward. And yes, we meet with the Prime Minister as well. We met with him recently, as well as the Leader of the Opposition. Fourth, real-time information. FCM provides immediate budget analysis, early insight into program changes, and opportunities for municipalities to weigh in. So councils are not always having to react after the decision's taken. And finally, we amplify the municipal voice across the nation, whether it's tariffs, homelessness, rural infrastructure, the broader municipal fiscal imbalance. FCM ensures that municipal realities are front and center in federal discussions. I'm just going to touch on a couple of current advocacy priorities for FCM that I hope will make that you'll be on board for. So on Canada-US trade, FCM has leveraged relationships with our US municipal counterparts. We've done advocacy missions, coordinating with Global Affairs Canada and business partners to push for tariff relief, as well as support for affected communities here at home. On homelessness, FCM is pressing the federal government to ensure supportive housing funding that's not stalled by missing operating dollars. And we're calling for a significantly increased federal investment to meet the scale of the crisis. On infrastructure, FCM continues to advocate for predictable, direct funding flows, particularly through the Canada Community Building Fund, along with sustained transit investment and long-term infrastructure planning. Finally, on community safety, FCM is prioritizing action on bail reform, extortion, organized crime, working directly with the federal ministers and enforcement partners and chiefs of police. So let me bring this home for you here in Niagara. FCM advocacy has helped Niagara region to get over $81 million through the Investing in Canada infrastructure program, $8.8 million in additional infrastructure grants over the past decade, over $169 million through the Canada Community Building Fund over 10 years, including $15.6 million in 2026-27 alone. And I can tell you that FCM has been pushing to continue to expand that envelope. And we've gotten that envelope expanded, and that has helped every municipality to access that funding. Approximately $30 million for Niagara Regional housing through the Federal Rapid Housing Initiative, another thing that FCM advocated for. Over $16 million from the Affordable Housing Fund, and $8.8 million in CMHC repair funding back in 2023. So that was just for 1 year. So looking at this from a business perspective, I hope those results speak for themselves. Finally, I just want to say, and I've been on the FCM board for 6 years now, chair of the Ontario caucus for a couple of years. And I've seen it. I've seen how municipalities can get divided across the country and how important it is that we do stay united and how one decision can impact many down the road. We are strongest when we stand together as municipalities. FCM delivers real, measurable results for its members, including the Niagara region, and we believe that continued membership will be a wise investment. We don't want to lose Niagara region, and we're asking for you to stay with us. Thank you very much. Now I'll be happy to answer questions, Chair, and I know FCM staff are also listening keenly online, and they can provide responses to you by email if there's something that I can't answer, because I'm not, the staff, as you know.
Thank you, Mr.
Happy to help.
Thank you,
Chair.
Mr. Nissan. And I see that Councillor Kaiser would like to ask you at least one question, perhaps
should
more.
do the trick. Thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair. I just was curious about your overall budget and the number of employees that you have with your organization.
Thank you. And I'll be happy to bring those numbers to you. I'm sorry, I didn't bring it in a folder with me. But I can tell you that you'll find FCM has a large number of employees, largely because we administer the Green Municipal Fund on behalf of the federal government. It's over $1 billion investment. So we have those program administration in there. Our advocacy team is relatively lean, about 10 people working on advocacy, but it's backed up by our board members who do a lot of the heavy lifting. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Kaiser. Any other members of council? Councillor Yip.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I just have two questions. The first one, are all of the other regional governments in Ontario members of FCM?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And may I add that we also have we always have a representative from Marco on there. So that's Jeff Lehman currently representing regions.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned the Green Municipal Fund. Would Niagara, if we were no longer a member of FCM, would Niagara be eligible for funding programs that you administer?
Yes.
Okay, we would.
Yes, you would. Yeah, I mean, we don't discriminate that way, although the bulk of municipalities are members.
Sounds like you discriminate other ways.
Yeah. No, I understand. And if you leave us, we'll work hard to bring you back as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Yip. I don't see any other councillors. Councillor Whalen, was that a mistake? Was that a pocket dial?
Yes, pretty well. Just one
Okay,
quick question.
Councillor
Mr. Chair.
Whalen.
Just one quick question. Thank you for your presentation. How does our 116, how does that drive? Is it per capita? Or how's the membership dues calculated?
Oh, yes. Yeah, they are a function of, they are per capita. Yep, they are a function of that.
Thank you.
Councillor Easton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Nissan. Can you explain how we get to $116,000 membership fee? What is that? How is that constructed?
Yeah, so it is a per capita fee based on the number of your population.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and I still don't see any more, so I'm not going to drag this out. Thank you very much, Mr. Neeson, for coming, and we'll be dealing with this as we get to the next item on the next item on the agenda. Thank you very much. So that takes us to items for consideration, and the first item is BRC C5 2026. Chair Gale, you have a motion, and I understand that Councillor Steele will be seconding that, and then you wished to speak to that off the top.
That's correct. So the
Please
motion's
proceed.
on the board, Mr. Chair. And like you said, Councillor Steele is going to second it, so I have a prepared speech on this. As this council knows, I was asked to review the budget process in its entirety for the police, inclusive of the police service, which are governed by the Police Services Board and are legislated under the Community Safety and Policing Act. The police budget is set by the Police Board after considering the Community Safety and Policing Act and their responsibility to provide adequate and effective policing. It is not our job at this committee to try and interfere in that process or to get involved in police operations. It is our responsibility to provide them with a funding envelope to keep our communities safe. The police service came here and Chief Forty and his team did a great job. You heard me say that I felt it was the best presentation that we've ever had from the police. Many of you said the same. They have been transparent, engaged in our community, and putting their lives on the line for our citizens. For that, we must be thankful. To help inform my thinking on this, I have, number one, thought about 2 presentations to this committee. Number 2, reviewed the reports prepared by the services for the police board and this committee to consider informing their budget. Number 3, discussed with CAO Tripp. Number 4, I asked to personally meet with Chief Forty. He accommodated that request a few times and numerous phone calls. Chief Forty reminded me that the board has already reduced $9.6 million from their initial submission. That included deferring some things that our community wants, like body-worn cameras. After all that, this committee then suggested that the matter be sent back to the police board to look at things again. You will remember that we asked them to find $2.7 million. The service listened and prepared a report for the police board to consider. During the discussion with the board about the report, they spoke about some of the items being extremely risky, because it assumed that more monies would come from the province for the transporting of prisoners and a further erosion of reserves. The board ultimately passed a motion to reduce the number and considered the balance of the possible reductions. I have to say that I think that they were great decisions. Less risky was the removal of 2 proposed sergeants' positions for their modified work accommodation program and the deferral of a couple other positions until later in the year. The removal of these 2 positions and the deferral would amount to about an $850,000 reduction on the overall budget. The chief mentioned that there were really no police comparators for these positions because it was their efforts to try something innovative to try and get police officers back to work from work-related and not work-related illnesses. The police board considered the proposals and ultimately decided to not reduce the budget. I want to say that being on a police board is not as simple as some in the room might think. I've served on the board for 8 years and had the privilege of also being chairman of the police board. When one of the board members is at the table, they have a fiduciary responsibility to act in the best interests of the police service board in accordance with the law and public safety. When they sit at this table as regional councillors, their fiduciary responsibility swings to the interests that we consider. As we know, they can sometimes be in conflict. Excuse me. I'm very confident that our appointed members, Councillors Chio, Steele, and Yip, and a former member of this committee that some of you know, Kevin Gibson, have done their due diligence in that capacity. Having said that, we find ourselves sitting at this table in a time when every penny counts, and I've been asked to provide a recommendation. So I'd like to move that motion, Mr. Chair. In addition to acknowledging the police board, as you know, I met with the chief, and I would also like to personally thank him for his efforts to lead the police service through this budget in a manner that is sensitive to both public safety and affordability. This can now go back to the police board for their consideration. But this, in my view, represents a funding umbrella that this council should approve. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And this is on the floor. And just for clarification, the police present us with their budget. This council advises the Police Services Board how much money we will give them. If they don't agree with it, they have alternatives. If they agree with it, then that's the budget. Councillor Steele, you're next on the list.
Thank you, Chair. And because of these meetings, I don't understand why we do this, but there is no section for the agenda to debate early on in the meeting how you want to do items. So at this time, I'd like to defer item 5.1 until after we deal with 5.2.
Okay.
So we'll deal with it tonight, but after we deal with 5.2.
Right. Do you have a seconder?
Councillor Cisco.
Okay, that's a motion to defer. So please vote
Well, that's-
electronically.
It's the only way we can do it without an agenda item on here.
I beg your pardon?
Because there's nowhere at the beginning, like most of our meetings where you ask for the order of agenda, we move things around. There is nothing in this meeting that has
Yeah,
it. So it's the only way I can do this.
You're entitled to move this. I don't know why, but that's neither here nor there. Please vote electronically, yes or no, to defer this till after 5.2.
I'm just, hear me out. That's all right.
So that's carried. So we'll come back to that after we deal then with the next item. And that is CAO 1/2026. And Councillor Gale, I understand that you wish to move that since you've had some involvement with respect to this.
The seconder for that will be Councillor Olson. Before I get to the discussion on our CAO's report, I would like to thank Councillor Easton for the motion to look at the budget, seconded by Councillor Encina. I remind you it was approved by 1 vote. I'd also like to thank regional staff headed by the CAO, my staff, regional councillors Olson and Encina, and a number of my business friends for their advice. I have heard clearly from the taxpayers across Niagara that they are feeling financial pressure. Residents have been asking us to keep increases as low as possible, and I take that responsibility seriously. I'm very pleased with it wasn't passed. I was going to say I was pleased with the 850 savings, but we'll see what happens there. Our focus is clear: make life more affordable for everyone in Niagara without affecting our essential services. This may not be bringing us to our 3.5% target. However, the proposed decrease to our regional tax levy puts real dollars in the pockets of our residents to pay for the daily essentials and help make ends meet. It puts money back into the pockets of our businesses to continue to grow and thrive right here in Niagara. Our CAO and I are 100% aligned in the 9 proposed efficiencies we will be discussing shortly. And I know that discussion will spur debate, and I welcome that. But I please ask councillors to look at what we are mandated to do, and let's get back in our lane. The public needs us to focus. So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that, and now I defer to CEO Tripp to explain, subject to your
Okay, well, yeah,
direction.
I'm the chair, so we'll
I
work on
understand.
that.
I'm saying
Counselor
subject
Olson,
to
you're
your
seconding
direction.
this? Okay, before we get to you on the list, the CAO does wish to make some comments.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Council will recall the November 13, 2025 Budget Review Committee of the Whole meeting, at which we discussed several open session and closed session budget mitigation items that Council could choose to consider in order to achieve the 3.5% targeted levy budget increase. I characterized those options as high risk and high community impact and indicated that staff were not recommending them. However, Council could consider them as they were not services and or resources that we were legislatively required or mandated to deliver. All mitigation options represented some degree of risk or resulted in respective impacts on resident safety and well-being, organizational service risk, and or the Council's strategic priorities. The levy budget before our BRC on January 8th already incorporated what were characterized as responsible mitigations and efficiencies, inclusive of $12.5 million in expenditure mitigations and a reduction of 61 permanent and temporary FTEs. To date, BRC has not recommended the inclusion of the high risk and high community impact mitigations. At its meeting of January 8th, the BRC directed the new regional chair and CAO to take a further final look at all the levy budget elements and report back on further potential budget mitigations. I can confirm that the chair CAO completed a very thorough review of the levy budget, and that review was completed through the lens of financial austerity. Is it necessary to deliver a mandated responsibility, or is it nice to have? As well as mandatory versus traditional. Are we in our lane? If it is not a legislative requirement, why are we doing it? Report CAO 1 2026 makes a series of mitigation recommendations for BRC's consideration. Most of these recommendations are items that were before BRC on November 13th. 3 of the recommendations are related to very recent new information or are based on analysis that's been conducted since that date. The CAO and regional chair are in agreement with all of the recommendations. There are few easy choices. If there were, either staff or council would have made them already. While I continue to characterize most of these recommendations as high risk and high community impact, they do not put resident safety or organizational service delivery at risk. And I just want to make it very clear, these recommendations are in no way a judgment on value or quality. It's really going back to, do they represent resident safety or organizational risk under the lenses of financial austerity and mandatory versus traditional? I'm not going to go through each one of them and try to make the case. The information is there, and we can speak to questions or clarity if council is required. I just wanted to provide a couple of clarifying items. I know that some of the councillors had received a message from a constituent regarding the EMS reduction. And I want to make it clear to council, I think it already is to you, this council, as the budget currently sits, is making considerable investments in EMS service, specifically around the move towards the hub and spoke master plan. Investments in frontline service, investment in support services, investment in capital. The item that's before you tonight in my recommendation has to do strictly with the financial mechanics of how it in fact has to do with the council approved policy, that when we approve capital funding for new infrastructure, we at the same time improve the operating funding associated with that, the incremental operating associated with that new capital. That is our policy. I can't stand behind recommending that when we haven't actually recommended the incremental investment in capital itself. As council will recall, There was a recommendation for incremental spending in capital to the tune of 3.4%-ish. Council chose not to support that in this austerities year. So it doesn't make sense to recommend improvements in the operation side if we're not actually making the investment in the capital side. So I wanted to make sure there was clarity for the public mostly, that this council, as the budget stands, is making considerable investment in EMS services. And then just the last piece, in terms of the industrial DC grant, I just want to make it clear that while our recommendation is to reduce it by 50%, there still is the Gateway RDC grant for new builds available or accessible to those wishing to do new builds as well. And we can get into more detail, but the 50% reduction would see us as the only regional government that is still supporting by grant DCs for industrial development. But we'd also have the other program under the Gateway that is also available in addition to that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, CAO. So we've got a list of 9 items. I think the most efficient way to deal with this is to allow each counselor to speak and direct their comments to any or all of those 9. If we want to deal with them when we vote individually, we can do that. But this way we can move forward with speakers and then at least get to an end at some point. So, Councillor Gale, you've spoken. That takes us then to Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm pleased to second this motion, and I hope that these recommendations can be accepted by council. Because I think it leaves us with a budget that maintains our debt level. It's founded on that. Makes modest additions to our reserves, which is another essential. And it focuses on our social services. Because in a democracy, it's a little bit like riding a bicycle. It only works if you're going forward. So we got to keep making our progress on that. Affordability, this is practical, achievable, and deliverable, this budget. And I think it should be approved on that basis. Item number 9 is the item that I was most interested in, and that was the reduction of the increase of $1 million in the gains from our investments. And that's done because it's an easy technical thing. Principal and risk were examined and there were approved list of investments, and this just makes a very simple adjustment to that to the tune of $1 million. So, Chair, I'll be voting in favor of the budget and the recommendations presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I'd like to put an amendment on the floor, and it's going to be seconded by Councillor Fiscal, that this council takes $6 million from the taxpayer reserve, direct staff to embark on a full core service review with results used for value for money audits moving forward. This would leave all items that are presented here tonight, would actually take them out, except for items number 7 and number 9, they would stay. This gives us a $7,262,800 savings to the original budget as presented, which formed a 6.98% increase. And based on my quick calculation, and please, staff, they can correct this because it could be out a little bit, it brings us down to a 5.5% approximate savings or tax levy. So as opposed to 6.37. So I'll put that on the floor right now, and then if I could speak first.
Okay, that's on the floor, and go ahead, Councillor Steele.
Thank you. I think there's been a lot of work put into this since Chair Gale's come on, and I appreciate what he's done with regards to this. Quite frankly, through the whole budget process in my 25 years of doing municipal budgets, and I've said this in the past, we keep continuing tripling over nickels and dimes to save pennies. I think we need to really look at our budgets. We need to take this year, in 2026, to set the table for next year's budget. As we always state, every day is budget day. In taking this much money, we can get down to at least approximately 5.5% levy, which I think is more palatable for all businesses. I think we've heard enough from 3 presenters tonight how important those 3 things are. because quite frankly, I think every one of these items, except for maybe a couple of them, are going to be debated for quite a while here tonight. We're going to have all these votes on whether they should stay in or stay out. I feel that they stay in this year with having staff embark on a full core service review. I think that's the best move forward, that we can really look at all the things. And quite frankly, the elephant in the room that I've always said is our employment numbers across the region and how we should be looking at that. And I think planning is the perfect example. So I would hope that everybody supports this, that we can get down to something palatable and move this budget forward and get on with life. Thank you.
So Councillor Steele, before I go on with the list, just for clarity on what it is your amendment proposes, $6 million from the Taxpayer Relief Fund in addition to what's already being proposed by staff?
No, so we would go back to the 6.98% levy that was moving into this meeting. So we would take this list, we would get rid of it except for items 7 and 9, they would remain, which leaves in a total of $7,262,800. So as I said, my rough calculation, we go from the original 6.98 down to about 5.5% as opposed to what's proposed here at 6.37%.
I thought you referenced $6 million from the Taxpayer Relief Fund.
Correct. Then there's another $1 million from item 9, I believe, and $262,800 in item 7.
So that $6 million includes what's already being proposed by staff?
No.
So it's an additional $6 million from the Rate Stabilization Fund?
Correct.
Okay. Councillor Cisco.
Chair, point of order?
Sure. What's your point of order?
Can you post it up so we can see it and so the public can see it?
I'm trying.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so while we're doing that, we will we'll proceed with Councillor Cisco.
Thank you, Chair. As a general rule of thumb, I am almost never in favor of using reserves to artificially lower tax increases. However, in this particular instance, the prospect of doing a full core service review, which I believe is something that Councillor Encina and I have been calling for at least a year now, with an eye towards value for money audits in the future, is the reason why I can lend support to this particular motion. The only way we are actually going to find real savings, lasting savings for the broader Niagara community is to undergo a core service review and make decisions, difficult decisions, on what lines of business we should be in and what lines of business we shouldn't be in. And I appreciate the comments from the CAO this evening. He's identified specific line items of areas where we don't need to be in them. And that's fine, except that making one-off decisions like that is really, really poor policy making. It just is. And I don't think we should be doing that to try and get down to an artificially set number that we've decided we're comfortable with below, but we can't abide by 1/100 of a percentage point above. If we're going to pick that number, well then let's use reserve funds and let's take the time to properly study the efforts of the Niagara region, what areas we should not be involved with, and then make tough decisions. Ultimately, that's the only way that this budget process ever gets any easier. And I think that was the point that Councillor Encina and I were trying to make last year during the budget process. And I appreciate Mayor Steele putting that in as a part of this amendment, because if we want to actually fix the financial situation, that's the process we have to go through. Core service review, take the results, identify the areas we want to stay in, do value for money audits, and identify the areas we don't want to stay in, and remove those from the budget. So I am not enthusiastic about supporting the use of reserve dollars in this instance, but I also think that it's necessary for us to be able to get past this hump and do the actual hard work that needs to be done, as opposed to kicking that can down the road again. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Cisco. Councillor Sorrento.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to staff. If someone can tell me how much we have in the Taxpayer Relief Fund, and if you don't have it right now, that's fine. Take a couple of minutes, and then I'll just ask my questions and then give the floor to my colleagues. My second question is, if it's the will of council to take the $6 million out of the fund, how will that be replaced? That would be my second question, Chair. And just a clarification, Chair. I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. So with all of these items that we are reducing the budget by, okay, would that be paid for by the $6 million, or are we adding the $6 million in addition to these cuts? Just need a clarification on that.
Counselor Steele? Just on that last point?
Yeah, Counselor Sorrento, through the chair. No, those items would stay in the budget like they are previous to tonight, under the 6.98. And then the amount that I put forward, along with items 7 and 9, would bring us down to approximately the 5.5%.
So through you, Chair, as a clarification, it's just an additional reduction. In addition, the $6 million is an additional reduction in, along with these items.
So, no, these items remain in the budget.
They're
The
gonna
$6
stay in the
million
budget.
would cover these and would reduce the overall budget down to 5 point
Got it.
something percent.
Okay, that's great. Now, Chair, I'm willing to give my time, let the next person speak if staff doesn't have the answer to my questions.
Well, I saw a schedule someplace that has the taxpayer relief information in it.
Yep, just the amount.
So, Director Benz.
Through the chair, thanks for the question. If you turn to Appendix 2 on CAO 1, 2026, we did provide a revised taxpayer relief reserve forecast. So everything that's in the budget in front of you right now would result in the taxpayer relief reserve would be at $19.8 million at the end of 2026. And to highlight, our target is 10 to 15% of budgeted operating expenses, which is between 90 and 135 million.
Okay, that's great. No further questions, Chair. Thank you.
And you also asked the question about how
How it
that
would be
fund would
reimbursed.
be replenished.
I believe, through you, Chair, I believe the director just said that we're looking at a, would you say, 10 to 15% target per year?
Well, no, that's the overall, that's the general target
Right.
of what that fund should have in it. You asked how it would be replenished.
Yeah, I did. Thank you,
Does-
Chair.
Does Director Brenz, do you have any comments on that?
Through the chair, typically that reserve is replenished through annual operating surpluses. I believe in 2023, it was removed from the budget, and we did have an annual transfer budgeted to the taxpayer relief reserve, and it was removed. So right now, the only way that reserve is replenished is through annual surplus.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director.
Counselor Badaway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First off, I do want to thank Councillor Steele for bringing this up. I think it's something that I'll support 100% because, quite frankly, that's what the Taxpayer Relief Reserve Fund is actually for, especially in years like this year where a lot of people are hurt. And I think we have an opportunity here to try and mitigate that. With that said, I'm assuming, and this would be a question to staff, that in fact, this would be coming out of the uncommitted balance of the reserve fund?
Through you, Chair, that is correct.
Thank you. So moving forward, and when I look at the two that are going to be staying in, I had to say that the number 9, which is something that I brought up a few meetings ago, is very much supported. I think that $1 million can turn into a lot more if we go back and look at the instruments that we're actually trying to invest from and really maximize our investment strategy to bring a number in 27's budget to be a lot more than $1 million. But the second part I want to touch on, Mr. Chair, if you allow, is the part of Councillor Steele's motion that reflects on an operational review. I fully support that. And although I've only been here since June, having done some homework going back to 22, 23 budgets, I have an example of why we need an operational review. When we look at the planning department's approved 23 budget, it was $4,129,000. And after applying indirect cost allocations, it equaled $5.242 million. Despite this overall funding level in 23, the planning department experienced a net budget decrease due to the department being disentangled. That was the intent. That was the thought. But was the savings identified in the following fiscal year budget? It wasn't. And in that case, and it's important to note, Mr. Chairman, that I believe a lot of it was due to redeployment. So then therefore the question begs itself in terms of and I want to make this point very clear. It is important to note that the reported staff redeployments did not generate measurable cost savings, even due to the disentanglement of the planning department. So it raises a key fiscal question. Were these deployments formally recognized within the applicable departments' fiscal year budgets going into 24-25, and particularly in relation to any corresponding budget increases? If the redeployment positions were transferred without a reduction in appropriations, then the redeployment was not there was no result in terms of true budgetary savings, only a reallocation of personnel resources, and clarification, therefore, Mr. Chairman, is needed. And what I want to receive from this operational review is that, one, the original departmental budgets were reduced to reflect the redeployments. Did that happen? The receiving department's budgets, were they increased accordingly? Did that happen? And any net savings, were they formally captured in the adopted fiscal year budget? Did that happen? So without corresponding budget adjustments, the redeployment represent a structural shift in staffing rather than a cost savings measure. Why? Why was it this intent to move forward with the redeployment, number one, based on a planning office that was actually disentangled? And I think by going forward this year with an operational review, we will recognize that, not only within that department's disentanglement and the increases in the redeployment costs in other departments, but also the overall operation of the organization. Again, I want to thank Councillor Steele and Councillor Cisco for bringing this forward under their motion, and I very, very much look forward to entering into that process in 26 so we can see further changes and savings going into the 27 budget. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Badaway. Councillor Steele, can you just take a look at what's on the board? Make sure that that first paragraph is what you had moved the amendment on? So, but my understanding is your intent was the $6 million would cover all of the items that have now been removed, and would reduce the general levy. What about the cost of a core services review that you're calling for here? Have you is that in the $6 million? It is in the $6 million. And how much is it? CAO?
Thank you, Chair, through you. And we're working that out on the side here, but it would need to be funded. Our estimate right now is $400,000.
All right. So that has to be taken into account for us to get to a levy increase amount at the end of this day.
It should net out the 400 to support the review.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, Councillor Foster.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Redekop, and as always seems to happen with these meetings, we suddenly get numbers tossed and things floating through our heads here, and it adds to a lot of confusion. So I just want to ask a couple of questions just so we're really clear on this. So I think Councillor Badaway may have asked, or Councillor Sorrento, but so the 19.8 million that we have in reserves right now will be reduced by 6 million. Is that the plan that's going on at this point?
Director Brins, or sorry, Commissioner, you can respond to that.
Yes, I can. So through you, Chair, the current forecast at the end of 2026 was 19,772 based on coming into tonight. So adding another, reducing it by $6 million would take us to around 13.7.
Okay, and just to clarify again, the standard we should be following is between 90 and 135 million. Okay, good. I think there's a bit of a difference in that number. My mathematics is that good. I toured with many others some of our infrastructure here in Niagara. Some of it that's in important cities such as St. Catharines and Niagara Falls, that's due to go bang in the middle of the night somewhere along the line. So I guess my question to staff is 13 million and change is Is that a realistic number if something like that was to happen to us?
Commissioner?
Through you, Chair, I think it would be fair to say the less that we have in the bank to deal with any variance in either our operating or our capital budgets would create more risk to the organization.
Thank you. I kind of think we play a little bit too fast and loose with our reserves at this council. I think that's a criticism that can be drawn on us for quite a few years as we're going on. Is there any associated application with this? I grew up in an environment where one-time expenses were okay to go and make use of reserves. I think the town of Lincoln still follows that. I think many other municipalities do as well. So the question is, like, are we now subsidizing operations out of the reserve? Is that exactly what we're doing at this point?
Well, I think.
I'm seeing nodding heads over there. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a reality.
I'd like it stated, so.
Well, Commissioner, did you want to chime in on that, or should I give that to the CAO because he's the top of the mountain?
The one nodding his head. It's exactly what it is. It creates a deficit in the operating budget that, without being right-sized, requires to be funded by reserve.
Okay, because I think staff had already done a pretty good job of going through and reviewing the one-timers, and we were looking at other pieces of the puzzle earlier in our budget process. Now, we had a KPMG report back that came into our thing. I believe that was a core review. If I remember correctly, I don't think we ever did anything with the core review that came through, or at least it was only very minor. I'm just curious, with a core review, is the expectation that we're about to make significant changes to the way Niagara runs with something like that? Apparently, historically, we don't.
CAO?
Through you, Chair, again, yes, it was KPMG that undertook at the time. It was called a sustainability review, but it was essentially a very similar effort. It was some time ago, I believe 2018, I could be wrong. We did action a couple of the items that were in that. The biggest one was related to incentives, which we did not. And as was stated by the councillors earlier, there was an intention to go forward with the core service review last year. It was the budget guidance of 3.5% that just resource-wise wasn't a possibility. So it's probably time that we did embark on that body of work again.
And by the way, I don't have an issue with us going through and doing a core review. I think if we're going to go and do it, we have to take a look at what the results are going to be. I'm going to give credit to Councillor Gale and CAO Tripp for going through and providing information to us on these areas. I will admit that I was one of the ones that voted against actually that happening, but I actually am very impressed with what went through and happened at this particular point in time. And it has offered some opportunities. Now, I'm not in favor of everything that's here or that was on the list, but I certainly think that some of these things are appropriate for us to look at. And just as a final comment, I'll be curious. It's Mayor Steele and Mayor Cisco that have moved and seconded this as it's going on. Sometime I'd like to understand what's going on in those two municipalities as well. I mean, like, are they making heavy use of this type of funding to go and actually support their operations within the thing? I highly doubt it. Both of them are extremely conservative in the way that they approach these things, so a small c. So anyway, I don't think this is a smart move. Thank you.
Councillor Greenwood?
And I'll hold back on my question till we find out which one is it. I got it. Hold back my question until after we decide what the decision is on the motion that Councillor Steele has put forward. I'll just.
You want to speak to the main motion?
Yes.
If this is not amended?
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Bateman?
Thank you. Through you, Chair, a question about kind of how we got here, because I'm finding this a little frustrating because when we deferred it to Chair Gale, I believe Councillor Easton spoke about legislation that empowers us to do so. But I haven't seen that legislation, so I'm just wondering, does that legislation exist?
I'm not aware of any. I think that wasn't the intent of Councillor Easton. She wanted to have the chair, give the new chair, an opportunity to review the budget with the CAO. This is what they've come up with. It's been put forward to us in a report and a recommendation, and that recommendation has been amended. There's a movement to amend that by Councillor
Yep, no, I
Steele.
understand what's
So
happening here tonight.
that's how
Yep.
we got here.
Okay, so there is no legislation. Okay, so we were told that we were going to hear back from the CAO regarding the waiving of development fees and where that money was coming from the Parliament Oak site. And I have yet to see or hear any information about that. So prior to voting on something like this, I'd like to know what the answer to that is and where we're getting that money.
Well, I wasn't here at the meeting where that was deferred, so was that part of the deferral?
I thought you voted in support of it, Chair.
I wasn't here for the meeting on January the 8th.
No, this was when they came to ask for those development charges to be waived. At that time, it was to come back to us for where we're going to find that money,
Okay, well,
not in the levy.
I wasn't at that meeting either, but,
I believe you were, and I thought you voted in support of it.
well, I don't recall that. So you said Councillor Gale did something?
Nope, didn't say that at all.
Okay, so what is your point then with respect to
We
the
have
amendment?
still to hear from a waiving of $1 million for development fees for a build that was not to go on the levy. That was, we were supposed to hear back from the CAO as to where that money was going to come from. I'm wondering when we will hear, because it's budget time, and I
Yeah.
haven't heard anything.
Okay, CAO?
Thank you, Chair, through you. And there wasn't a time frame indicated when that we'd be coming back, other than that we were taking it away. It certainly isn't going to be associated with these budget deliberations. At this point in time, just because we've been very focused on budget, we were targeting mid-2026 that we'd be coming back with something.
So just for clarification, Chair, we just putting that on hold, those development fees, we're going to have nothing to do with 2026?
CAO?
Through you, Chair, we don't know, well, don't have direct bearing on this budget decision in terms of how it's funded. That hasn't been determined yet, and we'll be coming back with information for council on that.
Because you anticipate if there is a grant of any sort, it won't be operative until 2027 or beyond?
It's not a grant, just for clarification, Chair, sorry to interrupt you, but we're not talking about a grant. We're talking about development fees that we're waiving for a parking lot.
Waiver, grant?
No, not the
are
same
we
thing at all, Chair.
Why don't we let the staff respond to the question that I'm wanting to
Well, I
ask?
just want to be
which-
clear, through you, Chair, you,
Councillor Bateman?
no, you're
let's
calling
find out
something a
whether
grant, and there was no application for it.
you asked the
They
question
came and
about-
asked for waiving.
Are you finished? You asked the question about why it's not in the budget, or is it going to be in the budget? The CAO has said we're going to get a report mid-2026. My question was, are we anticipating that this would be a budget item for the next year or sometime thereafter?
Through you, Chair, anything's possible. We don't know that yet. Because we don't have the information to base this on, we wouldn't recommend incorporating it in this budget.
Okay, so it's speculative at this point.
Yep.
Councillor Bateman?
Thank you. With these changes and with the proposed, I'm sorry, what did we call it? Sorry, I want to use the same language.
Service review?
Service review, thank you. With the changes in the service review, what do we expect, to pin down what Councillor Foster said, what do we expect to do with that? Because truthfully, it feels redundant. Every single decision we make is a service review decision. We decide all the time if we're going to do something or we're not going to do it. So to hire an outside company to basically do our job, to add another $400,000 to this seems kind of silly to me, to be honest with you. And, the continued talk about planning, we've had that conversation repeatedly. I think we should just change the name of the department because they do much more than planning, but the name of the department confuses many councillors here. So I'm wondering what we plan to do with this information, and quite frankly, isn't that our job as council?
CAO, purpose of a core services review?
Thank you through your chair. Well, there's two primary purposes. It identifies all the services that you are in and provides, I guess, an analysis on whether you're required to be in them or not. And then it looks at the levels of those services and whether those are appropriate for your legislative requirements or beyond that, and would have presumably recommendations for things that perhaps we don't need to be in, which is similar to the list you're looking before you tonight, and council make decisions as to whether we continue and at what service level. So it's a pretty
Thank you.
Traditional process that many municipalities follow.
Thank you. So through you, Chair, we've had that. We've received information from staff. I've heard council ask, what are we obligated to do? And what in addition are we funding on the municipal levy? So we've had that information for staff. I'm really, really bothered by the fact that we're 3.5 years into this, and now we're talking about doing a core service review. Like, we knew what the plan was going down the road, and I really don't like this saying, but we do keep kicking it down the road. Let's do a core service review. Let's do this. Let's do that. We either have to make really hard decisions, or we have to go to the province using AMO, using FCM, and say, we are drowning. We cannot take on any more. An example is the police budget. Correct me if I'm wrong, police board here, but we're now being, the waters, which were traditionally OPP, are now being managed by the local police. This keeps happening. This keeps happening. These services that our provincial and federal governments are responsible for keep coming to us. And we keep trying to plug holes with people who can barely afford to stay in their homes anymore. The poverty levels, I was looking at that today, they're wild. Youth poverty, it's like at 20-something% in Niagara. That is outstanding to me, and not in a good way. So, Chair, I'm really frustrated by this process. We have had staff come to us for an entire year to talk about budget. We do things like waive development fees with no date on it, no understanding of what we're doing, and no real explanation about where that money's going to come from. Like, it's absurd to me the way we're going through this. So I'm extremely frustrated, Chair.
Councillor Zalapa.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll just speak to the amendment because I think that's the proper process that we're trying to follow here.
That's what we're speaking to.
I'd like to understand a little bit about the Taxpayer Relief Fund. I appreciate Councillor Foster bringing it up. I'd like to, we got the balance now and we have the target and we know we're way off target. And we understand from the staff, I think we heard the implications of not having funds available in that account if we were to have a catastrophic capital issue. I guess my first question is, where would this council go for funding in the event of a major capital flaw? Where would we go for funding? Is that a loan? What happens?
CAO, do you want to tackle that?
Through you, Chair, short of or not, but for any program that already exists, I think we would reach to the provincial government, even if we were to go for borrowing for some unforeseen, there's still the financing costs associated with that. I'm not sure that we have somewhere we would turn to.
Yeah, no, that's the point I'm getting at. I kind of know that you have no point. You have no place to go. I don't mean the CAO, the community, the corporation has no place to go. What's the Taxpayer Relief Fund terms of reference? Can somebody read to me what's the purpose of that fund?
Purpose of the fund? Director Brenz, you're looking that up? Director Brenz is looking up the actual policy to be accurate on this.
Okay, and if I could, Chair, because I'm pretty confident, I think I know what it says, and I think Councillor Foster was kind of tipping at it, and I think I love the director just to kind of give us what that is. But I also say I'm glad to hear the KPMG report was referenced, because I kind of agree with even the last speaker. been a failure for this council to seriously look at some of those items and make some tough decisions. I know there were some particular items identified in that last service review that could have significantly, not like is I think I heard the mover even say we're scratching nickels to find pennies. There was significant savings identified that we could have moved on that this council just choose not to do around incentives, significant monies. So I doubt how is another core service review going to get us anywhere more successful. I really don't see it as a smart. I just think it's a delay tactic. It is tough times. There's no doubt.
Councillor Zalepi, you're
The whole
cutting out.
fiscal frontier broken. Property tax. Oh, sorry, Chair. Is that any better?
It is.
Can you hear me now?
We can, and Director Brenz does have your the policy and the purpose of the terms of reference. But why don't you finish what you're saying?
Well, if maybe we could have it read out, I'd appreciate that, Chair.
Sure, Director Brenz.
Through the chair, so through our council-approved reserve policy, the taxpayer relief reserve, or what we call our stabilization reserve, is to stabilize levy requirements due to unanticipated changes in operational requirements. So I wanted to highlight that this only relates to operating. Capital would be treated separately unless there was no money in capital, and we could maybe then leverage this. But due to unanticipated changes in operational requirements due to, but not limited to, economic situations that impact ability to maintain established services. One-time non-reoccurring expenditures contained with the operating budget. So you'll see some of those have been budgeted and have been included in that Appendix 2 that I referenced earlier. We actually note extraordinary winter control costs, repairs and maintenance, compliance with service requirements. And if we had issues with property tax-based deficits, we haven't faced that. So that is a good point, something to consider as we move forward with the tax or reassessment that hasn't been done since 2016. If we had fluctuations and issues with property taxes, we would leverage that. And then really any unpredictable other revenues, uncertainty related to provincial funding. So we leveraged that reserve heavily during COVID when we didn't have a secured funding arrangement from the province, and any emergency related purchases. While I do have the floor right now, I did want to highlight, it's important to acknowledge that a $6 million reduction from our reserve this year doesn't go away in the future. So what you're committing to is a reduction to the reserve of $6 million every year unless we put that back on the levy. And so you remember we've been carrying forward and trying to deal with the $6 million from 2022. We still have $2 million currently funding operations from reserves. So approving the $6 million would move that to actually $8 million. That would either have to be picked up on next year's tax levy, or we draw our reserve down to nothing and put ourselves at significant financial risk.
Councillor Zalepi, you still have the.
Okay, Mr. Chair, can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you, Director, for that. I think that's very sobering. And I also think I have a hard time finding any statement that you read in a way to reconcile using the funds for this purpose tonight. I'd ask the chair if we could separate that motion. The core service review it's a way to delay. I think it's still a good function to proceed on, but I'd like to vote separately on the use of the reserve fund. So if you could separate it that when we get to that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
So I'm not sure that can be separated out. This is your amendment, Councillor Steele. So this is the amendment, Councillor Zalepa.
No, Chair. I would say they're two separate items. There's the use of the relief fund, and then there's a core service review. Those are two separate actions. I'd like those actions separate and to vote on them separately.
I think the rationale is that we utilize the taxpayer relief reserve because we're not in a position to fully understand what services and what levels of service we should be providing, and that's why there's a need for a core services review. So my ruling is that those two need to be kept together, and the mover of the amendment is shaking his head in the affirmative. But you can challenge my ruling, Councillor Zalepa.
I won't do that, Chair. I appreciate I respect your ruling.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your courtesy. Anything further, Councillor Zalepa? Okay, Councillor Secord.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So listening to all this, I believe, and before I ask any questions or state anything, the CAO, I believe, Ron, you did say you probably thought this was due anyway, the core service review. Am I correct? And that's what you did say?
CAO?
Through you, Chair, I did say that, yes.
Okay, thank you. So looking at this from a business perspective, what I see is taking this $6 million, which is 1.2%, the way I look at it on the levy, taking that out to give our taxpayers who are under a severe burden at this time a break this year. By running the core service review, I would hope, and I don't think this is unattainable, and I would hope the CAO and most of the council would agree, that we would have to come up with about 2.4% in savings with this review to put the $6 million back and $12 million back, because we don't want to have to keep carrying this. So that would fix that. But I just wondered, the CAO, could you tell me how would this look going through the next year with the budget process? Is it completely separate, or are we doing both of these things at the same time?
CAO?
Thank you, Chair, through you. They'll be in parallel. They are two separate pieces of work. One is intended to form the other. Ideally, you do the core service review and start the budget process, but there won't be enough time in the year to actually do that. So there'll be concurrent things happening.
Okay. Well, I'm in support of it, Mr. Chair. I think sometimes you have to make an investment, and yeah, I know we don't want to take that money from that, but the end goal of being able to put it back and not have our taxpayers pay an increase again this year. We can't sustain these 9 and 10%. We have to get down to something more palatable, and every time I hear the number get lower. So I think Chair Gale and what he did was excellent work, and I think I can support both what Mr. Mayor Steele is trying to do here, as well as what the chair is doing. I think we have to invest in this, and I think we have to roll up our sleeves in the coming year to make it work. Thank you.
Councillor Gale.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, Regional Chair Gale.
Whatever, I'm good. You can call me Bob. But regardless of that, I want to thank Councillor Fiscal for mentioning about the operational review. I want to thank Councillor Foster for mentioning that we keep dipping into reserves. I learned that back 11 years ago when we had 0% guidance on that, how it hurt our reserves. If I had my druthers then, I would probably come in at 2 or 3%, and we were draining it. The 6%, the $6 million hitting the reserves is going to hurt us next year. Why didn't we do it last year when it was a 9.9% increase? Why didn't we do the 6 million then? Because it was probably wrong then, and it's wrong now. The taxpayers are going to pay for this a long time. I agree with Councillor Bateman's stance on what she said about getting into this. And I just have a real problem with the way this is going down on it, because the taxpayer, the relief fund is not for this. Now, a question, and Chair, if you can guide me, who would answer this? Does this motion violate our terms of reference because it's not an emergency? To me, it's irresponsible. Who would I ask that question?
You can ask the CAO.
Okay.
Through you, Chair, it's contrary to the policy, terms of reference policy, but it's council's policy. They can choose to do that.
So we set up the policy, but we'd be going against it by doing this. Is that more or less the answer?
But we have the ability to do that.
I agree. We have the ability to do anything with the majority vote.
Yeah.
But we set policies for that reason. Mr. Chair, I disagree with the amendment. I will be voting against the amendment. There are things in here I think that we should cut. I know the mover of the amendment said nickels and dimes. These aren't nickels and dimes. Every dollar is something to our taxpayer, and there are certain things that we should be looking at in here. I'm glad he left number 7 and number 9, but there are other ones like the industrial $1 million reduction that should be left in there on this. So I think we go back to the original motion. I'll be voting no on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Regional Chair. Councillor Yep.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Historically, I've been opposed to and spoken against using reserve funds in this way. However, I agree with Councillors Steele and Fiscal that this is an appropriate use and approach to future budgeting. Making these last-minute nickel and diming decisions, which is what they are in the grand scheme of things, that aren't recommended by staff or would, in the case of low-income funerals, for instance, harm the most vulnerable, isn't good policymaking. If we decide to remove an item like that after a comprehensive core services review, then so be it, and hopefully that will also give funeral homes and other organizations time to plan accordingly, as I would hope that the other organizations like Innovate Niagara that would have been impacted tonight would also have time to plan because they would know this was coming forward rather than being surprised by it with a few days' notice. The way the amendment is currently written, the $6 million from the Taxpayer Relief Reserve would cover costs of items 1 through 6 and item 8 for a total of nearly $2 million, leaving just over $4 million for a core services review, which would lead to better policy making. However, through you, Chair, to staff, before the discussion goes further, can we just get confirmation on what this would adjust the levy increase to if we were to go ahead with this and approve this decision? Councillor Steele was citing something less than 6%, and I just want to confirm what the number is.
Yeah, that would be the difference between the items that you totaled up, throw in $400,000 and whatever's left would come off the levy. So I'm sure Director Brenz has got that number or something approximate. Director Brenz? She's looking into her crystal ball.
And it's murky.
Through the chair, we started at 582.71. If I reduce by 6 million, but add back $400,000 for the core service review, I think that's the intention. Plus the reduction of the 0.26 associated with the funding, less the $1 million associated with the investment strategy, that brings us to 575.85 and a total of 5.7%.
5.7%, thank you, through you, Chair. And what is the number that we were currently at, like that we were at before this amendment came
Director?
forward?
Through the chair, we were at 6.98%.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Villela?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I just want to clarify something because I don't recall which councillor, I think maybe Councillor Foster. We were talking about catastrophic events and being concerned about reducing our taxpayer relief reserve. During the budget process, I did have the opportunity to look into certain things that I may not have recently done. And am I correct, and this is to Commissioner Renz, that there are separate tax, or what do we call them? Not relief funds, you called them something. Starts with an S.
Separate, Director?
Through the chair, are you talking about the reserves?
Yeah, but you called them something
Taxpayer
else.
relief reserve or stabilization reserves?
Stabilization reserve. So water and wastewater, for example, had their own separate reserves. Is that correct? That's correct, right? I
Through the
understood
chair,
that?
each of our four, so rate, water, wastewater, waste management, and the levy all have stabilization reserves.
Wonderful. So there are reserves put aside in the event of certain catastrophic events that may happen to some of our facility. And it doesn't necessarily refer to this taxpayer relief fund, which is operational, correct? Okay. And I think when you read the definition or the policy, I kind of heard something about taxpayer relief. Maybe you can review it again, but there are folks that are saying that this doesn't apply to that, but I do recall hearing something in there that did actually apply to what we're trying to do today. But we can go back if you want to point out where it is. We can all look at it ourselves, I'm sure. I'm in full support of this. And under the premise and the condition, because we've been talking about this for years, that we do embark on a heavy-duty, in-depth, dig deep core service review. So to use the word, if I may, Mayor Steele, embark, I don't feel like it's a strong enough word. I'd like to see something like if we're going to give the taxpayers a $6 million relief, which in my opinion, they're that they're entitled to that. We're in rough times right now, and this is the best time to be dealing with this. But I like to think that this year is going to be the year. This is the pause year. Let's just kind of slow it all down, and let's do a real deep dive into what we can do better. And I think that we're going to come up with way more than $6 million if we actually do the job effectively and properly. So I'm in 100% support of this. I would like to see a little harder word there than embark, because it's not moving me the way I'd like it to. Thank you, Chair.
No, we're going to keep moving. Councillor Olson.
I have a question for Ms. Brins. When we calculated when the amount was calculated for the savings from the change in the notes, that the number that we have here, I believe, is a half-year number. So, is that correct?
Director?
Through the chair, no, that was calculated based on the full year.
Okay, full year. Okay, thank you. And but I comment on the budget. This is what we're proposing here is like paying the rent from a credit card, and I don't think this is a wise, smart business move to use our limited reserves. They're not by no means expansive, and they could be used up by just about any event. And I think the fact that we're faced with reassessments and that type of thing coming up, this could be the place where we need the $6 million more than we do today. Thank you.
Director Brins, you're not on the list, but you say you want to say something? Yeah, go ahead.
Through the chair, just to touch on what Councillor Villila touched on, and then now Councillor Olson, just to clarify. So in years of reassessment, there's a high likelihood that businesses and property owners will not be happy with their reassessment. And so we face significant risk that a lot of those properties would be reassessed, and then we in turn would have to provide that money back to the taxpayers. So we budget for what we call tax write-offs. Right now, because the property tax system has been so stable, we haven't seen that need. But I haven't been through it, so I can't say for certain. But I think that that will be a significant change and something that we do need to be cognizant of. So it's not about tax relief. It's to deal with lost revenue when those properties are reassessed and MPAC changes their mind, and then we have to refund the taxes back.
I think you've just obfuscated the whole situation. In any event, Councillor Olson, are you anything further?
Thank you, Chair. That's it.
Councillor Kaiser.
Thank you, Chair. So I won't be supporting the amendment. I will just echo some of what Councillor Olson spoke of. At the end of the day, with all due respect, I kind of find it ironic that we're talking about supposedly we keep kicking the can down, and we're going to stop doing that by this motion. But in my opinion, that's exactly what we're doing with this amendment. It's kicking the can again. We keep hearing year after year about the overall impact as we defer, and then it causes impacts on the future levies. And I'm in support of a core service. I'm okay with that. Like, I'm good with that, but I'm frustrated by the fact that we had one done in 2018, which I wasn't here, But if I recall correctly, one of the core recommendations was to get out of the business of discretionary grants. And this council, since I've been here, has ignored that recommendation. So if we want to spend $400,000 again, I'm frustrated by the fact that this council has completely ignored that recommendation since I've been here. And just hearing the math of the 6.9 and the 5.7, not great at mental math, but it's about 1%. And if I recall correctly, the KPMG study and what we've heard every single year from this team at our team here is that if we would get out of the business of the discretionary grants, that's 1% off the levy. And this council continually ignores this. And so I am completely frustrated that, I'm happy to do the review. I'm happy to support that. But before I do, let's listen to the past review and let's get out of the business of discretionary grants. I thank the new regional chair for having the guts to come out and suggest that we cut some of these industrial grants. But, I don't see any guts with what this amendment is. I see the exact opposite. So I will not be supporting it. Thank you.
Councillor Whalen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One quick question for staff. We're taking $6 million of the taxpayer reserve fund. You may mention that we took money up a few years ago and we're paying it back every year. So technically, are we paying back 2 but taking out 6? So technically, it's a net of 4? No?
Director.
Through the chair, so back in 2022, we funded the tax levy with $6 million. So I believe maybe in 2024 and 2025, we put $2 million back on the levy. So because of considering affordability, we did defer putting that remaining $2 million on the tax levy. So this budget is already funded with $2 million from taxpayer relief reserve.
That's
So
great.
this
Thank
would
you for
make
the
it
answer.
8.
Councillor, is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Because if not, I'm going to go back to Councillor Badaway. Councillor Badaway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, I do want to thank Councillor Steele and Councillor Fiscal for bringing this forward. But want to be very clear, and this is a discussion that Councillor Steele and I had today, is that this, and I've heard a lot of comments and sort of being very, I guess to some extent confusing with respect to the reserve accounts that we're actually speaking about here. And I think it was mentioned earlier by Councillor Villela, and I thank her for that because it made things a lot more clear, hopefully, for members around the horseshoe, is that we're not speaking about taking from core service reserves, whether it be water, wastewater, whether it be roads, whether it be waste management, etc. We're talking about a taxpayer relief reserve, which quite frankly, in my view, is what this is for. So going back to Councillor Foster's comments and even to the CEO's comments, I think it's a bit misleading because we're not actually taken out of what was identified within the KPMG report. This is a taxpayer relief fund. What Councillor Steele is proposing is exactly what it's used for. Yes, there's no question that the $6 million will have to be refurbished in the future, like it had to be back in 2021. But that just simply states that and puts, quite frankly, this organization on notice going into 26 how important it is to look at a service review. But what's more important than a service review is based on that review is an operational review. And this organization is long overdue for both a service and, more importantly, an operational review. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Badaway. Councillor Encina.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to try and remain in my seat and not bounce in and out of it. Where do you start? We have been at this now for 4 months. I propose several things down the line, in open and in close, to do just that, to look at different things. But every time I did, this council didn't have the cojones to do it. So I don't understand now, we're going to go and do a core review and do what? Pass it on to the next council, because that's what we're doing here. We're taking that $6 million and we're going to pass it on to the next council. So if I remember correctly, the levy for next year, the projected levy, was even higher. if I remember correctly. So not only is it going to be higher, now we're going to have to add another, that council then is going to have to add another $2 million on top of that. Am I correct in saying that, Ms. Brent?
It's actually 6,
6?
plus the 2.
So there were mitigations that were brought up beforehand. Members of this council went and we dug and we looked at different things. How can we save money? But every time it was always turned down. So I guess you have to look at yourself and say, hey, wait a minute. I voted against all that before. And now this is a quick fix, which is going to throw everything on to the next council. That's pretty low. Personally, I think that's wrong. I take exception to the term nickel and dime. And this goes back a long way with me. A nickel and dime for us might be $1 or 100 for somebody else. So if we can say 0.5 or 0.05 off of something, we need to do that. And that's what I have maintained all the way through. Looking at the list that Chair Gale came up with, I still believe these are the savings that have to be had. So are you going to look at a core review and find these? I don't know. But they need to be dealt with. Chair, I'm going to leave it at that because I forgot my blood pressure medication at home. I'll leave it at that, Chair, and I will not vote in favor of putting this on the next council, because to me, that's what it's about. Thank you.
I find if you take deep breaths and then you release it slowly, that will help you. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and just a couple of quick things. One, we at the municipal level aren't allowed to spend our way into massive deficits like other levels of government, the federal or the provincial level from that point of view. And sometimes we have to be reminded of that as we're looking at these types of things. We have to live within the envelope that is appropriate for us to do. I'm going to apologize for my use of saying that a wastewater treatment plant or something is going to go bang in the night. I'll use the example as we have an earthquake and half the escarpment comes down on Lincoln, or a bridge collapses in St. Catharines, or whatever the case may be. The reality is that we need funds to make sure that we have ourselves protected as we go down the road. And just a last question to staff. I mean, I find this principal protected notes thing quite fascinating. So now we're suddenly reducing $6 million from our reserves. Is that going to change the equation on that? I kind of think it might, but again, I'm not that good with mathematics, I guess, so I'm just curious.
I'll let Director Brenz explain that because I asked that question yesterday.
Through the chair, yes, that is correct. Our reserves make up our working capital, and that's what we're investing. So the lower our reserves are, the lower that we're investing, correct?
It would be nominally wrong because we're talking about yeah. Anything further, Councillor Foster? No, I'm good. Councillor Zalapa.
Thanks, Chair. So I just want to ask the director a question regarding reserves. There's been some comments made, and I think they need to be corrected a little bit here. The director, when is the last time we did a sustainability review on the reserves that we have for our capital, like wastewater and water plants and things like that?
Director?
Through the chair, as far as capital reserves are concerned, we would turn to the recommendations in the corporate asset management plan that was equal to basically how much we need to be transferring into our reserves each year to sustain. So we're working towards that target in the effort to ensure we have adequate reserves to fund our state of good repair. So that's a little bit different than the operating side.
Councillor Zalapa?
Right, and so I would just like to go into that a little further. So that's it, that report that suggested to this council that those reserves are not adequately funded. And there was actually a recommendation, which we've chosen to ignore as well, which was an increase to the capital contribution from the levy to assist in bringing those reserves to a more practical or prudent level. So I'm just going to make the point that those reserves of capital for a potentially catastrophic event are not adequate. And therefore, if you needed to do something from a significant event, you would be looking at having to use other reserve funds, which we're depleting right now. So that's the point I wanted to make. It's, and I think this is, I think that's clear. So I appreciate you letting me say that again, and look forward to voting on the amendment against the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Zalapa. Councillor Crater?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yesterday and today, I had a lot of phone calls. So there's two categories that they're in. The one is from everyone who's on this list calling me and telling me why their services are the most important and that I've got to maintain them. So that's one side. Then I had a lot of calls from residents who said, finally, somebody has got the courage to start doing some reductions. Can you, when you go there, would you vote for in favor of them? So those are the two categories. But now we're talking about spending $6 million. That wasn't even on the agenda when I spoke to them yesterday and today. I didn't tell anyone that we were going to have this kind of a discussion, that we're going to spend $6 million. We're not looking at cuts. You can tell from what I've just said, I'm not going to support it. It's a good thing we're not a business. We'd be bankrupt. We would be bankrupt if we ever ran a business. I do have down blood pressure pills, so yeah, it's up. But my God, we'd be broke and we'd be destitute. Like if we were a board of directors, we'd have no business. But we're fortunate. You know why we're fortunate? Because all we do is raise the taxes. We just go out and raise taxes, and that's all we do. And then we say how wonderful we are, how good we are, how every service is the most important. But for the average person out there, and I think someone said, I was with my wife Helen at the grocery store, and one lady stopped us and said, how you doing? How's things? Good. And she said, I'm here because I've got all my coupons. I'm going to see if I can get some savings on some of those canned goods that she was there for, and she showed me them. And that's the reality of what's going on out there. Anyway, I'm frustrated, but I'm not going to support this. I'm just disappointed because I came here with the intent of making a decision on what we asked the regional chair to do. All we asked him is come back with your opinion of what is on before us. And he's given a list of what he suggested. And that's all we asked for. So I don't know how we got off track on this, other than we just stick motions up every time. Forget it. Thank you.
Regional Chair Gale.
Thank you. Sorry to talk again, but I guess a number of us have. So when I sat with my team today, we went over this list, and I said, we're not going to win all these, but we have to try on a lot of these here. And there was pro and con, like Kim said, that you have to try on some of these items. And I said, we're willing to negotiate, we're willing to do anything, but we got to stay in our lane. Like the CAO said, that we have to stay in our lane on some of these things. But I wasn't prepared to hurt the taxpayer next year on spending $6 million or whatever it works out, Beth told us, this year. We're killing next year with this, and it doesn't fit. This is not an emergency. During COVID was an emergency. I get it. But this is not an emergency. We're taking $6 million to do it. We're not even considering some of these things that probably should be done. We're just giving up. I don't know why I worked on this for 2 weeks if this goes through, but regardless, that's what we do, and I'll live with the vote. But I hope the amendment is shot down. Thank you.
Okay, there's no one else on the speakers list, so it's time to vote. Recorded vote has been requested.
Counselor Badaway.
Yes.
Counselor Bateman.
Nope.
Counselor Campion. Counselor Crater,
No.
Counselor Diodati,
I'm opposed.
Counselor Easton, Counselor Foster,
Opposed?
Chair Gale,
No.
Counselor Ganan, Counselor Greenwood. No. Counselor Encina,
No.
Counselor Yip,
In favor?
Counselor Junkin,
Push the button.
No.
Counselor Kaiser,
Opposed.
Counselor Olson,
Opposed.
Counselor Rigby,
No.
Counselor Seaborn,
Opposed.
Counselor Secord,
Yes.
Counselor Cisco,
In favor?
Counselor Sorrento,
Opposed?
Counselor Steele,
Yes.
Counselor Ugolini,
Yes.
Counselor Villella,
Yes.
Counselor Whalen,
Yes.
Counselor Witteveen,
Yes.
Counselor Zalepa,
No.
Chair Redicott.
No.
Chair, I wasn't able to get my mic on in time for the vote, but I'm opposed. Councillor Campion.
Duly noted. That's defeated, and we're back to the original motion and recommendations. And Councillor Steele, you started all of this. Do you still want the floor? Okay, so we do have a speakers list. This was the speakers list? Councillor Bateman.
Thank you, Chair. First, I really appreciate the delegates being here tonight. I think, their time is very valuable in all that they're doing. I previously spoke about the waiving of development fees. That concerns me greatly, the way that was done and how we still really aren't clear about how we're going to get that information. FCM, I think, is so important. As a counselor, I've only been to FCM once. I've spent a majority of my time at AMO, but I do see the value of it. It is just as important to me as AMO. The connections that we make as counselors, I feel that this job can be very lonely sometimes, and those belonging to those organizations, we get to share information, we get to see what works, what doesn't work. That's not, those are extensions of my work that I wouldn't be able to have unless I participated in those memberships. So I really, really hope that we give a big consideration if we're thinking of removing FCM. There was one other thing, the DEI student intern. I do think that it's really important for us to have interns in kind of every department. Things change so rapidly. Young people have a way about them to bring energy. I like the fact that we have interns. Through you, Chair, do we have interns in any other departments?
Director, do you know that? Franco's here. Mr. Maffei.
I just respond from here, Chair? Is it easier? Through you, yes, we do have interns in other departments.
Could you give me an example of how many, or rough estimate, sorry, of
You'll
how
have to
many
come
we've had?
down, Mr. Maffei, because we can't hear you back
Sorry,
there.
Director Maffei, but.
Through your chair, that's okay, I can use the walk, Councillor Bateman. We do, and it varies, so it depends on a few things. Obviously, the school year calendar
Right.
as to when interns are available and would come. Obviously, it depends on budget within those departments, and so departments have budgets today for students and interns, not all of them. So it varies, it could be anywhere from 1 to 3 to 5, it all depends on who has the budget, who's able to actually attract the interns.
So in
and
our
who has
entire
work.
organization, sorry, through you, Chair, in our entire organization, we might have 5?
It's possible, yes. Yeah.
And that would be max? I would assume
Wouldn't be
more,
max,
but-
so I'm just thinking at one time, like, I don't have an exact number for you, Councillor Bateman,
Okay.
but at one time, I know just from obviously us collecting the data in HR that that's usually about the approximate number.
Okay, you know, because I, of course, given the role that I play here at council and my personality, I love the fact that we have a DEI intern and wonder why that was a position chosen over potentially others. I do have concerns with EMS. Thank you, Director Murphy. I probably don't have any other direct questions for you. I do have concerns, anything to do with EMS. What I've learned through engagement with them, and I know we're speaking not about staff, none of that, but that I would like us to prioritize those employees in many ways moving forward. That's really all I have to say. I do appreciate having items to look at. I would like them to be voted on separately, as painful as that might be, Chair. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, we will vote on these items separately. Councillor Greenwood.
Much, Chair. I'm just going to speak with the one at the moment, which is the low-income funerals. In Niagara, at least one funeral home I know has between 25 and 30 funerals for people who cannot afford it, just don't have the money. And the money that it costs to open a grave by the site, that would be incurred by the cemetery itself, and then their bereavement fund, of course, would be diminished quite extensively. Where would that cost be? Is there a plan to for someone to pick up that cost? And that's just one funeral home.
So if this recommendation were adopted,
yes.
you want to know
Yes.
where the money would come from for those?
That's true, that's exactly.
Ms. Koenig, or
Through the chair, if we didn't have this fund to pay for the low-income funerals, we wouldn't have another source to support the funeral homes on that.
Mhm. Then if the region wouldn't have it, then it would possibly be dealt with pushed back to the municipalities itself? I don't know. I just, as I said, I just wanted to know if there was a plan at this time with that, but I just wanted you to be aware of what it deals with. Anyway, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Whalen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just
Sorry,
elaborate a little bit further.
sorry, it's Villela.
Sorry.
I jumped down. Sorry.
It's okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, just a question about the Innovative Fund. I just wondered how, well, not how, but was a performance or some kind of outcome evaluation done before recommending this cut? Like, did you look at the jobs created? Did you do an evaluation? Or was this just one of those things we thought we could cut?
So there is some information in the report, but CAO, this is an item you would have discussed with the chair.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. Well, it starts with, are we required to do it? Mandated service, and it certainly is not. It has a history, and you heard some of that from the delegation tonight, going back to 2014 formally. Although I wasn't a part of that discussion, my understanding was it was quite necessary to ensure that the funding from the provincial government was realized. I believe the intention or the objective at that time was work towards financial sustainability. And some of the questions from council touched on that in terms of paying forward in terms of folks that come through that program and then are sustainable. But we have sustained our investment to that time. Excuse me, as a elected service. And the report also indicates that there's certainly a similar entity in the city of Niagara Falls that is largely funded by the city of Niagara Falls. They are inquiring about funding as well. And it's simply something that is not our mandate. It's not our core mandate. Again, as I said in my comments, it's not a value judgment. It's looking at, in time of austerity, what do we need? What don't we need to do? And that's one of those things.
Okay, thank you, CEO. Is economic development part of our mandate here at the region?
CAO?
Through you, Chair. Economic development is a part of council's mandate. It is not a legislative responsibility. It's not mandatory. And council's aware that it was an item for discussion and part of the mitigation measures. Economic development in its entirety is not a legislative requirement to do it, but I certainly would try to convince council that there is a clear return on investment of doing that work that surpasses the expenditure. So then we looked at pieces that are funded through economic development that are not a part of our mandate. They just have a legacy in terms of funding.
Okay, thank you for that answer. To you, Mr. Chair, just one more question, and I wanted to touch on the low-income funerals. Having had a little bit of experience with this, I have a question. And I've had to do my research through an extended family member. And the average cost for funerals around $1,800 to $2,000 for a cremation, where you bring your own urn. So that would be considered a low-income funeral. And what I thought the region did was kind of fronted the money. And then the Canada Pension benefit was returned to the region to compensate for the fronting of the money. At least that's what I was told when I was working with the region for a very particular case like this. So I'm not assuming everyone has Canada Pension. Maybe that's where this $200,000 comes in. But generally speaking, I think council should know that we're compensated. We're not just giving it away. It's not a freebie. We take the CPP benefit from the government that would go to that individual, and we pay for what we fronted. That is my understanding. If I'm incorrect, please correct me. But as I said, I just went through this.
Yeah,
so.
Commissioner Koenig, can you explain how that program works?
Through the chair, so for the low-income funerals program, it's a program that is for individuals who are not OW or ODSP recipients,
Right.
and who meet a finance assessment that they have under $5,000 in liquid assets after death through their estate. Mm-hmm. Not everybody is eligible for that CPP piece, and for those who are eligible for CPP, it's on a sliding scale. Between $2,500 and $5,000. So it addresses that gap for individuals who wouldn't be eligible for a program.
So do you have, through you, Mr. Chair, do you have an idea of what your shortfall was?
Do you mean how much was spent last year?
Yeah, well, shortfall, because they've compensated some from the CPP, so shortfall.
So through the chair, the budget, they came in within the budget, so we were spending about $200,000 a year to support individuals with that program.
Okay. I'm not fond of cutting, once again, for the most vulnerable in our community. So I would ask that one be removed to vote on, if I may. Thank you.
Councillor Whalen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just elaborate a little bit further on the funeral aspect of it. Do we still get compensated 80% back from the upper level of government, like provincial government?
Commissioner?
Through the chair, so through the social assistance program, we have 3 different areas where we provide support related to funerals. We have funerals related to unclaimed bodies. That's not part of this. We have funeral support related to recipients of OW and ODSP, and that's not part of this. Those are both funded through the province. The support for low-income funerals is 100% levy contribution because it's related to individuals who are low-income rather than individuals who are recipients of OW and ODSP. So across the province, it's the practice generally across municipalities to provide support for low-income funerals for individuals who aren't recipients for OW and ODSP, but who would struggle in terms of affordability for this.
So in other words, ODSP and OWSP would still get covered, but low income will not.
That's correct.
So what is classified as low income that we're wiping out?
Through the chair, pardon me, sorry?
Like what degree of income are we wiping out that won't qualify anymore?
Through the chair, so for individuals who pass away and with their estate, they have less than $5,000 liquid within the first few months, they wouldn't be eligible anymore for this type of support.
So what would happen to these people? They're left on the doorstep of a funeral home?
Through the chair, so it just wouldn't be something that would be available to them. Some individuals do have access to support through CPP, through the death benefit, but not everybody has full access to that.
So death benefit would cover over and above what the ODSP of this $2,000. Yeah.
For individuals who have access to that fund, that's correct.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Ganan.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to speak about the low-income funerals. I had a conversation this morning with our funeral director, actually, and the problem seems to be, according to him, is for independent, which are usually small businesses in small communities like ours. The conglomerates seem to be able to absorb social service funerals more easily. I understand from our funeral director that in trying to satisfy families and provide some form of a funeral service for people who are suggested, who come through social services, that the coverage, even that we're getting, covers about 40% of the funeral. So even a very basic funeral, they still must pay full services, for the cremation or for the urn or for the type of casket that's chosen, obviously a very basic. They need to still pay for staff. They still need to pay for vehicles. Pay for a small hall or something if somebody prefers to have something, or a church if don't have a church affiliation. So I think what I've been hearing since I've been mayor from the same funeral home is that they would love to have seen more money added to this, certainly not taken away. I understand that Haldeman pays, and we have some because of where we're situated in West Lincoln. Haldeman have some residents that sort of sit on our border and theirs, and they will pay double what the region of Niagara is now paying to make sure that somebody has an appropriate funeral. So I asked whether funeral homes are actually able to say, sorry, we can't do it. And he said that they are morally and ethically obliged, to provide some kind of a service for residents or non-residents that have family in our municipality. And then I talked about the business aspect of that with him, and he informed me that they are losing money. They're happy to do it because they're serving residents, and that's what their role is. But as a business, they are losing money each time they do one of those services. And so, again, when I really appreciate the staying in our lane perspective of this, and I appreciate the attempt to not, sort of to put more money back into businesses. But in this case, if a funeral home is not part of one of the larger conglomerates, then they, in fact, are losing business by providing the service that they are. They're still willing to do that. They still want to do that. And they're hoping that this stays in the budget. But I think that I want my colleagues to know that nobody's getting rich on those kinds of services. They're just simply performing what they feel that they need to do to provide the dignity that that person deserves. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ganan. Councillor Easton.
Well, my concern really was item number 4. However, I think the question's been answered several times now, and I'm satisfied that this motion represents the intent of the original motion that I presented, and we're going to have to come to terms with that fact in our vote. Otherwise, we're just going to be picking through this, and the result will be that there will be almost no changes, if any at all. So with that, I'll move on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to speak to it just very generally. I believe that our base budget, Chairs, 2022 to 2025 base budget only is about 16% in the last 4 years, maybe just slightly over 16%, and that doesn't include our ABCs. And while each of these items is worthy of being funded, I think I'm going to hit the pause button, as my esteemed colleague from Fort Erie says all the time, Councillor Encina, not necessarily no, but pause, and maybe revisit it another time. I know that our ratepayers are really hurting, and if I can save them a little bit of money through these cuts, then I'm going to do that. So with that, Chair, I'm just going to yield the floor to my colleagues. Thank you.
So we'll let Councillor Kaiser continue.
Thank you, Chair. I'm okay. I was trying to join the amendment list, so thank you. I'm good.
Great, good news. Councillor Crater, you're next.
Really?
Yeah, or were you only speaking to the amendment before?
No, I'm okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Seaborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would have liked to have seen some more emphasis on the Innovate Niagara, having been very involved with it during the time I was in Grimsby. But I have had a good explanation, so I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you. Councillor Cisco.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to speak, I guess, generally, but also specifically. I'll start with the specific, and I would hope, I believe it was already requested that we would vote on these separately. I would hope that council could see fit to deny number 2. I think Innovate Niagara punches above its weight for a very limited cost. I think they've demonstrated that for a very long time. You know, even if you just look at the number of jobs they're helping businesses create, I mean, $600 a job. That's about the best kind of investment we can be making for the people in our community, because those are also, you know, what I like to call house buying jobs. Those are in the tech sector. They pay wages that allow people to be able to live and to have a life and to spend money within their community. You know, they've attracted tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars of funding for their clients. They've worked with them. They've provided market intelligence, the mentorship that's necessary. And you heard this evening from a very successful company that is frankly going to put Niagara on the map. I will also point out was an example of wonderful cooperation between local area municipalities, St. Catharines and Thorold, to make sure that they found the right spot in Thorold to be able to set up shop. They're going to continue creating jobs in the future. And we heard from them about the impact that Innovate had. Again, I would suggest that cutting this is cutting off our nose to spite our face. It is a very nice short-term savings of 0.02% on the general tax levy, but it denies opportunities to entrepreneurs, which is exactly who we should be trying to help in this current climate, especially entrepreneurs that are looking within Canada and outside of our borders, but not necessarily south and branching out to other parts of the world. That's what Innovate Niagara is providing support to. So I would hope that council sees fit to keep that in place. There are a number of other items here that I won't be able to support. I will say I see a lot of value in FCM, the conferences they put on, the advocacy work that they do. You know, when it comes to, and we talk a lot around this horseshoe about changing the municipal funding model and the mechanism by which municipalities are funded. For those who aren't aware, that call has been coming from FCM, and the research has been done by FCM, and the efforts to make those changes have been led by FCM. And it seems counterintuitive to me that we would pull back at a time when we are trying to see the changes that FCM has been leading the charge on. I struggle with that. It doesn't make sense. It sounds a lot like wanting the nice things, but not wanting to pay for it. And I just don't think that we can be that type of a municipality. There are a couple of others here. Like I said, I hope council can see fit to make good choices. A lot of people have talked about the low-income funerals and the support for low-income funerals. There's no way that I can support cutting that. I'm sorry. And this goes to a point that's been made by a couple of my colleagues. Lacking a full core service review, we are picking and choosing line items that we have decided fall out of favor with us at this moment. And this is a terrible way to run a government. These have been identified as not being a part of our core mandate, but we've also heard of other parts of what the region offers that are not a part of our core mandate. The conversation a few minutes ago was about economic development and how that is not a part of our core mandate. And yes, that was a part of a previous conversation, and we're not dealing with that tonight, but that's exactly the point. We're picking and choosing things right now, as opposed to looking at the way the corporation operates as a whole and making a coherent set of choices. I will just close with this. A couple of people have mentioned that a report was done in 2018 and it wasn't followed. And I will only note that some of the people who were pointing out that how ridiculous this was were on that council in 2018. You're right. It's frustrating that some of those those tough decisions weren't made, and that we continue to have the discussion about some of these issues. New councillors come in, and old reports become dated and sit on shelves and stop being relevant to the conversation. I'm sorry that those tough decisions weren't made by the council of the day. I wasn't here. Many of us weren't here. But that doesn't change the fact that just because previous councils didn't have the guts to make hard decisions means we shouldn't try to make hard decisions. But picking and choosing individual items off of a list is not making hard decisions. Actually looking at what this organization does and what its goals are supposed to be and how we're going to achieve those goals, and then changing the way we operate based on that, those are hard decisions. I look forward to having the conversation in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cisco. Councillor Rigby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, my favorite mayor. He spoiled all of my talk.
Good, then you don't need to go on.
No, shut up. And I really like number 2, and I thought that they presented extremely well. That may be one of the reasons why I was attracted to what they were presenting. Also, the fact that having been a business person prior to being the mayor, and now, of course, everyone knows I don't do anything, that I really have become well addressed to what that company is doing. Just so you don't think I'm really that bad, I was going to mention FCM too, so I don't have to talk about anything now, but I would like to see those two considered.
Thank you, Councillor Rigby. Councillor Foster.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And couple of things. The first one that I want to talk about is item 1, that the industrial development charge incentive grant be lowered from 100% to 50%, etc. My suggestion, and I've talked with staff earlier, and I've talked with Chair Gale earlier as well. I would really like it that we don't put.
You made this way. I can put it over here.
Oh, Badaway wants to talk. What I really don't want to do is put sort of some mysteries on it for people that are applying for this. My suggestion is that we change this part, and I have no issue with it being reduced to 1 million. But we cap it at 1 million as it comes down through, no change with the percent that's going into place. What it will mean is we likely exhaust that sometime during the year. And at that point in time, we would have to make a decision what we're doing. We'd have to take a look at the merits. We'd have to take a look at the business case that's coming into play. So my suggestion is to modify this, this particular part, remove the be lowered from 100% to 50%, but reduce the incentives line to 1 million. So,
So just a second. Yeah, you're gonna move an amendment?
I'm going to move that
So
amendment.
before you do that, can I just ask staff whether maybe the CAO or the director, what's the implication of that if that were carried?
Through you, Chair, so I think I didn't catch it till the very end, but it's to not do the reduction, stay at 100%, but have a
But
finite
cap-
budget of $1 million. Is
Cap
that
the
correct?
program, because the program right now is $2 million.
That's our budget.
Right. So implications?
So implication would likely be at some point in the year that's exhausted, maybe midpoint in the year. And there'd be no funding short of some consideration of council, but there would
That's
be no
correct.
budget allocation for it.
Yes, that's exactly where I'm going with that, so.
So how can you have the program if you don't have the funding? You don't have to answer that. How can you have the program if you don't have the funding?
Through you, Chair, that's the way many of our incentive policies or programs in the new versions are. They
First come, first serve?
Exactly.
Okay. So Councillor Foster, you wanted to move an amendment?
Yeah, so I'd like to move an amendment that we change this so that it's essentially saying that the incentives budget be reduced by 1 million for the industrial development charge. So it's set at 1 million.
Seconder? Councillor Easton. That's on the floor for comment. Anybody wish to speak to it? Counselor Gale.
I'll be quick. I support that because we can always come back to council if we have to change anything, so I support that. Thanks.
So if somebody in midterm, mid-year comes in, the $1 million have been exhausted, we get a request for more funding, where's the money going to come from if council decides they want to approve that?
We'd look at the options, but probably the only option is rate
Rate
stabilization.
stabilization reserve fund, okay. Anything further, Counselor Gale?
No, but that's an option. We probably would say no, but that's an option. But I have no problem supporting that amendment. Thank you.
Well, if it's a business in Fort Erie, I'm saying yes. Counselor Bateman.
Actually, sorry, I've been trying to join.
Counselor,
Thank you, through you, Chair. How much do we generally give out? Like, do we have an average? Are we giving out 10 million? Are we giving out 2 million? 2 million? So chances are that this would come to council for a decision. I will support the amendment, I think, because I think that capping it is good, and first come, first serve is good, and I think, again, it points us into a better direction, but just I am nervous that council will potentially approve in perpetuity, kind of. So that is a nervousness I have, Chair. Thank you.
Just, if I can advise you, just relax for now. If it comes, it comes. Counselor Kaiser.
All right, I'm back. Thank you. I won't be supporting this amendment. I think for businesses to know upfront what the program is makes it easier for them to understand and operate. And I am concerned about that we're really not making any substantial change in the sense that we're saying we'll come back to us later. So I won't be supporting the amendment.
I don't see any other speakers, so let's vote electronically on this amendment. There's somebody home, but the lights aren't. Okay, so we've got those from home. Now we're going to redo it here, so you have to vote again because we've had a little technical difficulty. Okay, so that is carried. You still have the floor, Councillor Foster.
Yes, thank you. Just, a couple of earlier comments too. AMO is actually kind of important in the figuring out what's happening world of funding, so let's not discount our membership in that. And also rating reserves is not a particularly good idea for financial stability either, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Ugolini.
Some of these that I won't support, but a lot of them I will. But the one I want to speak on is the number 2, which is Innovate Niagara. And the reason being, I've seen the value just in our own community. And I don't have my mic. Yeah, it's on. Okay. And we can use Destiny Copper here as an example. The leg up they got at the beginning is what allowed them to get to the point they are today. And if you want to talk about return on investment, it's the number of jobs they've created, the industrial amount of square footage that they're using, that they're paying on, and that's one example. And when you add that economic development aspect and what the actual region's getting in taxes, this is peanuts, 92,000.02%, and that's only one business. We're talking multiple businesses and multiple impacts across the Niagara region. So this for sure is one that I'll be voting no. I don't. I want to see it in the budget. I don't want to see it removed. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ugolini. And that then takes us to Councillor Campion, who, you're in a bay window area, I hope, because otherwise it looks like you're inside a closet and those are louver doors. And it's very dark.
I am in.
You need to increase the wattage on that light bulb.
I've been delegated to have the meeting in a closet. So I just wanted to reiterate that I support Innovate Niagara as well. They're partners with us, partners with St. Catharines. The return on investment, and that is extremely significant, and will continue to do that. I was not going to say more than that because I felt Councillor Fiscal took up all of my time, but I just wanted to add that in there. And so I hope council will support that because there's a great value to that. Thanks, Chair.
So to be clear, he didn't take up all your time, he took up all your ideas.
I shared them ahead of the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Is there anyone who hasn't spoken yet, before I go back to Councillor Gale, who started this? Councillor Diodati? Councillor Diodati.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yep, thank you, Chair. This is one that I do support the economic development side of this because these are mining for the miners. This is where we're creating the job opportunities. They're not expenses, they're return on investments. And I think this is exactly what we need more of to help those people that are looking for opportunities. So I'll vote no on this one. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Diodati. If there is no one else who hasn't spoken yet, then I'm going to go back to Councillor Gale.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll be quick. I just want to say that I put these up here. It doesn't offend me if any of these are knocked out, but I like this process better than what we had before. And we'll just let it ride the way it is. So thank you very much.
We agreed that we were going to vote on these individually. So I hesitate to mention the words. So I'm going to suggest that we vote on these electronically. So, no, I didn't hear that. That was just a joke, right? On everyone? It's only 7:25. You got 3 hours left. Okay, so now I know that's a joke. Okay, so assuming that it is a joke, I don't want to make light of this. Okay, so let's vote electronically then on item number 1. Sorry? Electronically.
Number 1.
Number 1, yes or no, electronically. No, we haven't voted on this. So if you vote on this, you're approving what each item says. So in this case, it would be reducing the budget for industrial development charge incentive grant by $1 million, or to $1 million. Go. Well, it's getting long. Okay, so item number 1 is carried. Can we go, sorry?
Mr. Chairman, my vote was yes. And my vote was yes, so was mine.
All right, so it's, all right, let's do it again in the chamber. You've got the number from at home?
Yes.
All right. So for the third time, we're asking you to vote again. You've always got my back. Okay, so that is carried. So let's go to item number 2. So we're gonna put that up. Number 2, I think, is Innovate Niagara, but, yes. So number 2, we're gonna vote on that. If you don't want to remove it, you vote no. You ready to go?
It's going.
Okay, make sure you vote. Okay, so that looks like that's defeated, which means that that will stay in the budget.
Okay, are we good?
Yep. So number 3, can you flash that up? Yep, it's gonna flash it up. So number 3 is the economic development local area municipality item. Be removed. Yes or no? Please vote. So that is carried. So then we'll go to number 4, which is the low-income funerals. Yes. Sure. Recorded vote on number 4, low-income funerals.
Counselor Badaway.
No.
Counselor Bateman.
Opposed.
Counselor Campion.
Nope.
Counselor Crater.
No.
Counselor Diodati.
Opposed?
Counselor Easton. Counselor Foster.
Yes.
Chair Gale.
Yes.
Counselor Ganan. Counselor Greenwood. Counselor Encina.
Yes.
Counselor Yip.
Opposed?
Counselor Junkin.
No.
Counselor Kaiser.
No.
Counselor Morocco. Oh, sorry, she's not here. Counselor Olson.
Opposed.
Counselor Rigby.
Opposed.
Counselor Seaborn.
Opposed?
Counselor Secord.
Opposed?
Counselor Cisco.
Opposed.
Counselor Sorrento.
Opposed?
Counselor Steele.
Yes.
Counselor Ugolini.
Opposed?
Counselor Villella.
Opposed?
Counselor Whalen.
No.
Counselor Witteveen.
No.
Counselor Zalepa.
No.
Chair Redicott.
No.
That's defeated.
That is defeated. So that will stay in the budget. Number 5, the EMS operational aspect for 2026 be removed. So please vote
Could
electronically
I,
on.
sorry, Chair, I would like a recorded vote on that one, please.
Sure.
Oh, you poor things.
Counselor Badaway.
Yes.
Counselor Bateman.
Opposed?
Counselor Campion.
Yes.
Counselor Crater.
Yes.
Counselor Diodati.
Yes.
Counselor Easton.
Yes.
Counselor Foster.
Support?
Chair Gale.
Yes.
Counselor Ganan.
Yes.
Counselor Greenwood.
Yes.
Counselor Encina.
Yes.
Counselor Yip.
In favor?
Counselor Junkin.
Yes.
Counselor Kaiser.
Yes.
Counselor Olson.
Support.
Counselor Rigby.
No.
Counselor Seaborn.
Yes.
Counselor Secord.
Yes.
Counselor Cisco.
In favor.
Counselor Sorrento.
In favor?
Counselor Steele.
Yes.
Counselor Ugolini.
Yes.
Counselor Villella.
Yes.
Counselor Whalen.
Yes.
Counselor Witteveen.
Yes.
Counselor Zalepa.
Yes.
Chair Redicott,
Yes. So that is carried. That takes us to item number 6, which is the DEI intern student. Please vote electronically. And that is carried. That takes us to number 7, which is the found additional funding from provincial government. So, everybody clear on this? Please vote electronically. So that is carried. Which takes us then to number 8, the FCM. Please vote electronically. So, depending on what the vote was at home.
to 12.
So that is defeated 14 to 12. Which takes us to number 9. So please vote electronically on that. So that is carried. Thankfully. So we are at, so now we go back to the police, which was item 5.1, which was, 5.1, which was deferred at Councillor Steele's request. So did we have a,
Did, so Councillor Gale moved it and Councillor Steele seconded it.
right, did we have any speakers before that, or was Councillor Steele the second one up? And did we have a list? Okay,
Yeah, I don't have any. Steele was the second speaker and he deferred it.
right. So, speakers to this motion, or, does it make a difference? So then, right. Well, we're gonna know where we're at once we vote on this regardless. So is there a reason to hold it up? Do you know it? Yeah. So we know that we're gonna be lower than where we started. Okay, so are there any other speakers to this? If not, then let's vote electronically. Sorry. We're at 6.45 right now, so please vote electronically. You guys are not supposed to be influencing your colleagues. Okay, so
Okay,
so that is carried. So That then takes us to consent items, and that's BRCC 3-2026, which is everything that was approved before. Do you need a chance to make any changes on this with the numbers? Director Brenz? Okay. Okay, so that will come back at council. Okay. So this is just really a reiteration of what we have already done to date.
And the budget committee recommending to council to reconsider based on the decisions that have just been made.
Right. So we have all the numbers that we need.
Yes.
Okay, so we're currently at 6.3, including the police reduction. So any questions with respect to this? Are you folks so tired you just want to get this over with? Okay. We need a mover and we need a seconder. Councillor Foster would move that. Councillor, I'm going to go with somebody who's not on the score sheet yet. Councillor Vidavine. Okay, if there are no speakers, please vote electronically.
Do you want to do 30 minutes, Chair? There's food back there. People can eat.
No.
20
I'm
minutes?
going to eat at home.
Okay.
My daughter's waiting for me.
Okay.
That is
We
carried.
need 20 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that takes us to other business. Councillor Seaborn, you have an item?
I do, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to propose that we consider having the police budget as a separate line item on municipal tax bills. The reason is simple. People like the police, they want more police presence, and they believe that the police are doing a good job. In the very same breath, those same people complain about the regional portion of their tax bills. Separating the portion that is the regional bills for all the services the region provides from the police portion that covers all the services that they provide is transparent, accountable, and will give our ratepayers a better understanding of where their tax dollars are going. In speaking with Chair Gale, he advises that Police Chief Forty would be in favor of this plan. Hamilton separates their police portion, and I think it would be a great idea if Niagara did as well. I realize that each municipality has their own software for setting up tax bills, and I don't expect it'll happen in the 2026 season, but I would like to see consideration being given to the change for the 2027 tax year. May I ask that Corporate Services Department come back with a plan to achieve this?
So we can,
Thank you.
that's a matter that corporate services can consider, but there would have to be a motion at corporate services to direct staff to do that. Well, it's not a direction, it's other business. Corporate services can deal with a motion and then staff can work on it. Okay, that's
So
how
you
that
would like
works.
me to bring this back as a motion?
It'll go to corporate services. Corporate services should deal with it. Somebody on corporate services, if you're on corporate services, you could move a motion that this take place. And then it'll be dealt with during 2026, and it can be possibly implemented for 2027.
Okay, I'm not a member of the Corporate Services Committee.
So I am.
All right, then we'll
Okay.
talk.
So I
Thank you.
I will bring that up, and Councillor Foster, who is the chair, will remind me.
Thank you.
Any other business?
Councillor Cisco.
Councillor Cisco.
Yeah, Chair, maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Does the region issue a tax bill?
No, the region doesn't. The direction would be to ask municipalities to do that.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear, because some of the conversation there, I wasn't sure if maybe I missed
Right, I
something.
mean, we do that with, the municipalities do that, at least ours does with respect to waste management.
So my understanding is that the tax bill is actually very prescribed, and the province doesn't allow that, because we've made that request in the past, but I
that-
look forward to the debate at
Yeah,
corporate
that's my
services.
understanding, and that will be what corporate services can deal with. Any other business? If not, the next meeting will be July the 30th, 2026. I can hardly wait. Pardon? This meeting is done. So now we're going to take a 20-minute break, and then we're going to come back and deal with the special council meeting. And Regional Chair, you get to chair that meeting.
Counselors who are in the meeting, stay in this meeting link. We'll be back in 20.